Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday, the 25th of September, 2024, coming at you from a new location. Actually, I have done videos from here before, I think at least one, and better internet connection. And so it's about an hour away from my house. And so I drove here so that I could get a video done with you guys uninterrupted. I'm so sorry about yesterday. If anyone wants to look at that video, it's not complete. And so this is a second attempt at that, even though there is some information in that video that I do. I think it's, interesting, talking about Canadian and American politics in the West and other things in it before I even got into my attempts at the videos. And so if you want to look at that, again, it's not very long, and it doesn't cover the stuff that I wanted to cover. And that's what today is about. Before I get into that, oh my God, our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was on Stephen Colbert, and the Canadians are not fans of Justin Trudeau, just to be clear. The majority of Canadians, okay, there's like 32 alleged people that had that voted for him in the last elections. Not a lot of people. It was really low voter turnout, and I'm talking about overall, not just the people that are voting, the people that didn't vote as well. The polling suggests that Justin Trudeau does not have a lot of support within any demographic in Canada. And even people within his Liberal Party have repeatedly called for him to step down. Again, it's been well over a year at least. And so they're even getting sick of this clown. Yeah, I'm name calling already, but there's other words I'd like to call him. Anyway. Yeah, and so he went on Stephen Colbert. I'll finish with that. And again, just so much lies and lack of understanding of international politics and social services that he thinks are great that are not. And anyway, it is what it is. Just more propaganda. I'm really enjoying. I think his name is Ian. He's bringing a lot of good content out into the ether, and so this is about BlackRock and their connections.
Actually owns BlackRock, but there's something really weird about it. Because by now we know that BlackRock is in the top 3 shareholders of basically every corporation in America and beyond. And they do this using our money in things like retirement accounts, pension funds, IRAs, exchange traded funds, mutual funds. But most people don't actually know who owns and controls BlackRock. We all know that it was founded by Larry Fink, and he's the face of the company. But
that's why, even with 9/11, people don't want to hear me on that. But there is involvement with BlackRock types and that deep state, whatever you want to call it, cover up regarding 9/11, a staged and planned event which encompassed a lot of international assets and internal assets to the government. And we're still not getting the truth about it on mainstream media or by politicians. It's just, it is what it is.
It does not control it. When you try to find out who does control it, you'll usually find this list, which is the top institutional shareholders. Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street are right at the top, just like every other company. But this is not the whole story. Because if you dig deep enough, you'll find out that actually Merrill Lynch owns 45% of BlackRock. And they're considered an insider, so they don't show up on the top institutional holders list. This merger took place in 2006. So actually Merrill Lynch controls BlackRock in a big way. But who controls Merrill Lynch? Well, Merrill Lynch is actually a division of Bank of America, because Bank of America bought them out during the 2008 financial collapse. So who owns Bank of America? Well, nowadays, Warren Buffett is the top shareholder of Bank of America because he owns Berkshire Hathaway, which is his billionaire investment firm. I'm still not sure what this top one is, the 25%. That's an anomaly, and I cannot corroborate what those shares are, but I found these shares. This is a screenshot from Berkshire Hathaway's 13F where they tell you all the things they hold. And I totaled up all of these Bank of America shares, and it equals 1,032,000,000 shares. That's 13% of Bank of America shares, equal to $33 billion. But I also dug in a little bit into where Bank of America came from and who founded them. And all modern banks are crazy histories of mergers and acquisitions and banks changing their names.
Yep. And so I don't just leave it to him to do the deep diving. I always verify what he shares as well, even though he's a good source, right? And he's right most of the time, which, again, you can't beat that in this day and age because no one's perfect. No one's going to be perfect. Anyway, because I'm in Canada. Bank of America, Merrill Lynch Canada Incorporated. Merrill Lynch Canada Inc. is a global investment bank in Canada. The company provides investment banking, etc. Anyway, so Merrill Lynch slash BlackRock slash fucking, oh my God. Anyway, it's in Canada too, in our major city centers. Anyway. Interesting. I'll carry on with him.
Merging with other banks, probably for no particular reason. But Bank of America traces its roots back in two different directions, one of which we're not going to talk about, and the other one is back to this Italian dude named Amadeo Giannini, who acquired what was then called Banca di America d'Italia. Sorry for that accent. Over the years, it changed its name to Bank America, and then in the biggest merger in history, merged with Charlotte-based Nation Bank in 1998. So I just thought it was interesting that half of the lineage of Bank of America was founded by this Italian dude that got really into Italian banking back in the early 1900s, you know, when like there was a certain Italian organization that was doing a lot of things with money back then. I'm sure it was all above board though. Obviously. But anyways, back to the weird thing that I can't figure out. Bank of America owns Merrill Lynch, who owns the vast majority of BlackRock.
Yeah, since 2006.
But they don't have anyone on the board, as far as I can tell. Usually, the biggest shareholders of a company have representatives on the board that sort of represent their investment. But I've just shown you
and I just want to clarify as well, just because he's correct in everything he's saying. With there's just like some discrepancies because it's not called Merrill Lynch anymore. It's called BOFA. Where did I get it here? Yeah, Bank of America and BOFA Securities, formerly Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, provide global perspectives. By the way, not a globe, but anyway, I don't care if anyone thinks that's crazy or not anymore. It's true. BlackRock acquires Merrill Lynch Investment Management 2006. The investment bank and capital market business is ditching the 104-year-old name to become BOFA Securities, and its wealth management business will collectively be called Merrill without the Lynch. CIBC. So this is Canadian. The brand was retained for CIBC's retail brokerage operations in December of 2001. CIBC acquired the Canadian retail brokerage business of Merrill Lynch Canada for an estimated $409 million. No, thank you. So this is to show Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce. That is who owns them as well now. And so very interesting stuff. I'm talking about Canadian right now. Yeah.
Board of directors of BlackRock, and none of them have any real ties to Merrill Lynch or Bank of America, which seems pretty weird when you own almost half the company to not have any board members. The plot thickens. So two things. If you want to follow the history of Bank of America down the other trail, you might wind up at a certain family name that you aren't aware of that is really hard to find on the internet. That'll probably get videos taken down. So I found out who actually owns BlackRock, but there's something really weird about it. Because by now we...
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. This is also important because Soros is also a major funding of leftist, woke, DEI, whatever you want to call it, institutions, including banking institutions, education systems, government, and celebrities, and yeah. Look what's going on right now with George Soros and mainstream media in America, and he's not American. Nope, sorry about that. What the heck? I'm so sorry, guys. I thought I was sharing. Try again. I'm glad I went back on it.
So far, from what you could tell, there is nothing about this transaction.
I'm going to refresh it.
That is out of the ordinary. It's the type of thing that we see all the time. And
I'm going to refresh. I thought you guys were listening and watching at the same time. Okay.
take ownership of over 200 radio stations across 40 different markets after the FCC originally indicating that that transaction could be reviewed and approved at the bureau level without a commission vote. It's now become clear that that is a decision before the full commission, and it's one that I would assume now or in the near future the commission would approve. I think what's interesting about it is that the FCC here is not following its normal process for reviewing a transaction. We have established over a number of years one way in which you can get approval from the FCC when you have in excess of 25% foreign ownership, which this transaction does. And it seems to me that the FCC is poised to create, for the first time, an entirely new shortcut.
Yeah, thank you. As you pointed out here and previously, these proceedings for transfer of ownership have been expedited. What exactly makes this case so deserving of an expedited proceeding so far, from what you could tell?
There is nothing about this transaction that is out of the ordinary. It's the type of thing that we see all the time, and the FCC has a process for this. The full commission itself has never signed off on a shortcut like this. What we usually do is we require people to file a petition with us. We bring in national security agencies. They can review the foreign ownership. It's probably no big deal here, but we review that foreign ownership and then we vote. Here, they're trying to do something that's never been done before at the commission level.
Yeah, and I'm going to pull up the Stop Soros Act from Hungary, and I believe he was born there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going to put in a simple search before I share it with you to see if it comes up. But anyways, I can just read it as well, but I want you to see that it's out there. Open source. 2018, June 20th, Hungary passes Stop Soros laws. So the Soros, let's see if this one's a good one. BBC sometimes has a decent overview or analysis. Okay, so what do they say? Hungary passes Stop Soros law banning help for migrants. What it's not saying is illegal migrants. It's very specific in the data. So sometimes mainstream media does manipulate words, and it does matter. The Hungarian parliament has banned new legislation that criminalizes lawyers and activists who help asylum seekers. See, yeah, so I already don't like this one because that's already lying. So anyways, I'll just read it. Soros banned from Hungary. Anyway, in 2018, Hungary's parliament, he's not banned from Hungary, by the way, just like the stuff that he's implementing or pushing, a specific, especially in the West, people are literally creating measures to fight against. So in 2018, Hungary's parliament passed a series of laws. Okay, so these are laws collectively known as the Stop Soros package. That's a fact. And by the way, their economy really did well. I was tracking them since that period in 2019, 2020. I shared this information with people within government, and yeah, and it was. And my point was that like their political system, their platform, it was very effective, and I suggested that this is something that we should look at and pay attention to, especially for Canada, so that we can learn, I guess, from what they're doing. Anyway, the legislation was named after Hungarian-born billionaire George Soros, who has been a vocal advocate for refugee rights and has supported organizations providing aid to migrants. He's not a philanthropist. Like the stuff that he's involved in, it's not for the benefit of humanity, whether he knows this or not. I think he knows this. Criminalization of aid. Key provisions, number one, criminalization of aid. The laws made it a criminal offense for individuals or organizations to provide assistance, including legal aid, to asylum seekers or migrants who entered Hungary illegally. Very important here. People are relying on mainstream media. They don't get it right. It's frustrating. I will reiterate. Criminalization of aid, including legal aid, but it is for asylum seekers or migrants who entered Hungary illegally. These are criminals. People who enter countries illegally, that's a crime. That's why it's called illegal. and this is something that should be enforced. We already have services available for people to claim refugee status, asylum seekers, and we already have that in place for people that do migrate to Canada or travel to Canada. And so it's the illegal part. Number two, prison sentences. Those found guilty could face up to 1 year in prison. You're a criminal. You're aiding and abetting criminals. So, okay. Number three, restrictions on NGOs, non-government organizations. The laws limited the ability of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, to operate in asylum cases, effectively silencing their advocacy and support for migrants. Do you want to know why? Because there are NGOs and these philanthropy groups and these religious groups that are not religious or philanthropy or helping at all. Okay, they're aiding and abetting criminals who are trafficking humans. Okay, we find this all the time. Like, this has been called out in multiple different countries as well. Trying to enter illegally with children and adults, very young, and even wearing the freaking like the white collars and the crosses and wearing like the not wolves in sheep's clothing. Oh, the stuff I share. Anyway, back to my posts. See if there's anything else worth. Oh yeah, my meniscus tear. Oh, did I show that twice? Ugh, this is fun.
Applaud you because they have no idea how hated and incompetent you actually
This is not real.
are.
I want to watch the real though because it's funny. Because this is
Being in front of a dumb American audience who
I don't think Americans are dumb. This is whoever made this video saying this.
applaud you because they have no idea how hated and incompetent you actually are. So welcome to America.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Now, so do all Canadians hate you?
Yes, they do.
Good. Just
Yes,
make
they
sure
do.
you know.
That
What we do
might
here.
be part of why I'm here. You know, I said, come-
Is that because you literally shut down people's bank accounts in 2022 like a dictator might?
Well, as many know, my real father is Fidel Castro, one of the greatest authoritarians of the 20th century.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. No, it's true. You see, my father was the prime minister during the 1970s, and my mom wasn't a huge fan of his, similar to how all Canadians hate me. So she was cheating on him quite a bit. She would hang out at Studio 54 here in New York City. She banged Mick Jagger famously. And shortly before I was born, she snuck down to Havana to get smashed by my biological father, Fidel. And then I was born 9 months later. Just look at a side-by-side photo of me and Fidel Castro. The resemblance is uncanny. That's where I think I get my authoritarian nature from.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Comedian Shane Gillis just performed in Toronto last week, and while doing an impersonation of Drumpf, he called you the F slur that is generally reserved for homosexuals, but truly is more appropriate for someone like you, and received a lengthy applause break.
I mean, people in Canada really hate me. I'd be surprised if my approval rating was over 20.
Okay. Yeah. It was funny. It went on to the video since I'm already almost 20 minutes in. Oh my goodness. Okay. I want to start with redacted, and you can.
Against NATO
I did share
targets
some of this yesterday.
if NATO and the United States do not step off, which they are not showing that they are inclined to do. Now, Hillary Clinton wants criminal charges against anyone who speaks out against NATO. So what I'm about to say.
So this is, we will use tactical nuclear weapons. Russia warns NATO against escalation, redacted. And it's really important.
she wants to be criminal, but I'm going to say it anyway and bring it on. You warmongering piece of garbage. We'll get to Hillary in a second. Today, Zelensky is coming to the United States to meet with Biden and Harris and Trump.
I agree with you on a lot of this. Yeah, I see the need to stop illegal migration, but the bigger danger is legal migration. Yeah, you're right. And what we're calling legal migration, right? This is such a gray area because there are people that are migrating here or seeking refugee status. And I've said this in previous videos, but that are exploiting our system and monopolizing on our social aid and welfare systems, like I just said. And we can't sustain that. And so, like I've said, they're here legally, but temporary foreign workers. They're taking jobs and housing and resources away from Canadians, and increase in crime. All of this stuff I'm not relating the two, but anyways, just look at the charge sheets. I'll just leave it at that. And especially in suburbs and major city centers now. And then student visas. I've said this as well multiple times throughout history. We have terrorists and or criminals that have entered the West as students, international students, whatever you want to call it, and then sometimes they do get their the national citizenship after not a very long period of time. And but anyways, it's the ones that don't even have the national citizenship of the country that they're at, obviously, as well. Omar Khadr, people from 9/11, even the those arts students, anyways. And I could go on a tangent. Even in Quebec, just recently, that guy that's a suspected terrorist that was planning to attack a Jewish religious institution or something like that, whatever he was trying to do, he was also in Canada, in Quebec, as a student. And so, yeah, that's also seen as legal, but there is such a gray area in that as well that people are exploiting. And it is a lot. If you look at the temporary foreign workers and you look at the student visas, and then people that are claiming refugee status and asylum seeking and all this stuff, and it's people that are coming here again, exploiting the system, pretending that they identify as a fucking unicorn, basically, because it's on the list of you can claim refugee status if your pronouns, if you feel at risk in your country of how you essentially identify yourself and or your sexual interest, if you're homosexual or not. But again, a lot of countries don't care about that stuff, and the ones that do, that are coming here, there's a lot of people that are also resisting this in this country. They don't want, it's not that they don't want, they don't accept what a lot of people in Canada do consider to be not abnormal behavior, like being homosexual. Who cares, right? The LGBT community, they're getting exploited right now. That's a different topic for another day. But yeah, people are lying and exploiting our systems. And there's people that have shares and stocks and or getting financially incentivized in order to bring people over here like this. And these are people that are already millionaires and billionaires, and a lot of them working in government, unfortunately.
Begging them to let him use long-range weapons to attack Russia. Here he is over the weekend in Scranton, Pennsylvania, visiting a plant that manufactures.
No one wants to talk about this issue because that we're already getting labeled as right-wing extremists, as racist, as misogynists, as all of these different awful fucking names. Even though I keep on saying I'm libertarian, at the most I'm center, maybe a little right, maybe a little and so and most definitely not racist or sexist. At least I don't think I am. Anyway, but it's the labels that are being put on us, and it's just the emotional responses that are elicited in people. It's just I understand why people don't want to talk about this stuff, because the mainstream media and our politicians spew so much hate and division regarding this, that for some reason people that, again, when they only consume mainstream media and political echo chambers, they feel almost entitled or almost like it's their duty to just ruin the lives or destroy the lives of people that might have a differing view from them, right? It's no one can agree to disagree anymore, which is ridiculous to me, because even in my family, there's people have voted for 3-4 different political parties, and we're sitting in the same room and we can get along. It's shocking, I know, right? And we don't hate each other. And guess what? There's people that like different sports teams, and they don't fight about that either. Or religion. This is, anyway, it's not new though.
as 155 millimeter artillery shells.
Signing it with a freaking Sharpie.
Yes. Now on X, he says that this very plant will be ramping up production for Ukraine. The comments alone make me want to punch a wall. For instance, this fella says, this is something I wish so many on the right would understand. The majority of the money we give to Ukraine is being used to expand capacity and production at these plants, which creates American jobs. Now, first of all, I ask you, do we want a strong economy that's based on killing people? Is that what we're agreeing to here? Second, the money we give has to be created out of debt. That so far has tanked our economy. That means that your groceries are higher. So this it pays America and makes American jobs is fairly short-sighted, given that it's tanking our economy. Don't you think? Anybody?
Yeah. Yes.
Bueller?
They don't
Now,
see it for what it is.
Professor, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro signed some bombs himself. Watch him do this while Zelensky looks on like he just sold a gym membership.
He's so proud.
Yeah. Now, this is a good reminder that Democrats are the party of war. Republicans are too. We should not let them off the hook. We don't see a lot of Republicans telling the truth about this, but Democrats are leading this charge. Now, we'll see more of this week because Zelensky is in the U.S. to present his victory plan. This is just a rebranding of his peace summit that he tried to get President Biden to attend in August, and Biden ghosted that event. So now he's coming to us. Again, it's just a rebranding of his beggar campaign to continue the death in an unwinnable war. If you watch Zelensky, he's more like a social media influencer, only instead of getting brand endorsements for skincare, he gets millions of dollars in weapons. The minute he steps off the plane, in a new place, we get fancy edited videos to boost his brand, replete with music from historical dramas such as this one, as if history is happening before our very eyes.
U.S. Air Force flew him anywhere.
All right, so this piece goes on for 3 whole minutes in this vein. He is romanticizing death. Only an idiot who has swallowed propaganda would be inspired by this. Now, didn't we learn our lesson from the weapons of mass destruction propaganda? Let's all wake up, please, when we see things like this. Now, next, Zelensky goes to the UN, and again, he will meet with Vice President Harris and President Trump to make his sleazy pitch for death and pose for photos. Now, I wish both candidates would turn off the lights the way you signal that you're out of Halloween candy so that he would just go away. But Kamala Harris wants this war to continue, so she will not do so. She said so at the debates recently. Recall this.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
Okay, Justin Bureau in our chat says this channel is Russian propaganda. I would like to tell Justin to kiss my ass, because what this channel does not abide is lies that lead to war. And I am going to show you, Justin, how she is lying. Before I do that, what were you going to say, David?
I was just gonna say, did she just admit that she shared military secrets with a non-NATO member, another military
I
leader?
suppose.
I think that's what she just said. I just shared intelligence with Zelensky, so how he could protect himself. And then, of course, Trump's retort a few seconds later was, so you met with him, and then 2 days later, Russia invaded. Like, whatever you did was highly effective.
Yes. Okay. Allow me to point out how she is lying. This was not an invasion at the whim of Putin, and Putin has never expressed interest in going beyond the territory where the war currently is. Further, when she says he would give it up, I just wonder, when was it hers to give up? When was it ours in the United States to give up?
2014, when we incited a coup and installed a CIA-backed puppet government in Kiev. So they belong to us. They belong to BlackRock. They belong to Vanguard. So they belong to Kamala Harris by proxy.
Let's go back to the map.
We demand a return on our investment for that.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes, we are investing in this territory that we don't own. So let's again look at the map so that we look at what she's talking about. The territory that is dark red and dark gray are the regions that Ukraine has been attacking with NATO's help since 2014, as Clayton said, because either those people are Russian, ethnic Russians, or Russian aligned. Innocent people live there, and the Ukraine.
I've actually verified this as well. I verified this map before I even share this stuff. And I know people, like I've said, that have gone over to Ukraine to offer assistance, thinking they're doing the right thing. And in some cases, yes. But the assistance that we're providing, unfortunately, it was also to help people against their own. It is what it is. We're going to get into it. But what I wanted to say is in these areas that they're showing where there are Russians or Russian-speaking, Russian-supporting civilians, innocent civilians, but people within certain regions that are identified here on this map, this is verified by people, again, like I said, that have been there multiple times, literally just even in the last, since the war, whatever you want to call this, has started. And so, yeah, fact checking done.
Ukrainian army has attacked them in violent and unspeakable ways, killing civilians for a decade. In 2022, as Russian, ethnic Russians, or Russian aligned, innocent people live there, and the Ukrainian army has attacked them in violent and unspeakable ways, killing civilians for a decade. In 2022, as attacks in that region escalated, Ukraine attacking, not Russia, supported by the U.S. and NATO's money, 5 mayors from those regions asked Russia to come in and stop it. Russian parliament voted to do that, not Putin personally. And in fact, once the Russian army had control of those places, those people voted overwhelmingly to join Russia. It was not Putin's invasion. It was not an unprovoked attack. The attack had already been started by Ukraine. Now, Kamala Harris is either not studied because she's stupid or she's lying. Why would she do that? I ask you. And why would she have the hubris to talk about giving it up? Who gave us Ukraine to give up? Whose is it to give up? The people who lived there voted. Is that not the will of the people? Or should they just go back to dying because Ukraine wants to attack them? Now she says Ukraine is still sovereign today, lol. Why is Zelensky here then? He keeps pitching war as peace, and our leaders and our media are swallowing it. Again, NATO provoked this war by sending Zelensky those weapons to keep attacking those regions. NATO's the one that wants the war to be escalated. Now, Hillary Clinton, who is also lustful for this war, told MSNBC's Rachel Maddow last week that anyone who speaks out against NATO's involvement in Ukraine against Russia, as I clearly just did, should be prosecuted.
Just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence.
Oh, bring it on, you warmongering witch. So because we talk out against NATO's. So we talk out against NATO's involvement and attacks in these regions and this provocation. And so you want to criminally prosecute those people who speak out against this treachery?
Yes, that's what she wants. So because
like an evil empress too, like with the
I didn't notice. What is she wearing? Yeah, she does look a lot like
the
Dolores Umbridge.
Emperor Palpatine.
Okay, so the context that I just provided you for the escalation of war in Ukraine, because I absolutely want it to stop. I want not another bullet sent to Ukraine. I want not another bit of support. I want the cameras to turn off and walk away from Zelensky. I do not want him to meet with any elected or unelected U.S. leader, full stop. That she wants to be prosecutable, but it is still a free country, and I still can say it. And it's clear what she wants is an escalation with Russia. Now, Russia keeps responding to this rhetoric and saying, we will back off, you back off. The United States, Europe, and NATO. Just today, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, I'm sure I said that wrong, I apologize, said nothing regarding this position on nuclear has changed. As previously outlined by the Russian president, we can conduct such tests, but we will not hold any, given the United States refrains from such steps regarding nuclear tests. So this is the same way my sister and I used to fight when we would hold each other's hair. Like, you let go. No, you let go. Like, literally, let go, walk away, de-escalate. If you don't do it, we won't do it. If we had prudent leaders, we would speak directly to them, not use an idiot puppet like Zelensky, but we don't. Now, even though President Trump reiterated in the debate that the war was Putin's invasion, which is false, at least he says he's willing to broker a real negotiation between Ukraine and Russia. And RFK Jr. has admitted that we violated the Minsk agreements. So at least he has one non-liar nearby.
Well, JD Vance also overnight said basically he can go pound sand, told Zelensky, like, we don't want to see you. Zelensky fired back at JD Vance.
Right.
So, and JD Vance on the campaign just a few days ago said that we absolutely should not be sending Americans money and weapons into 6,000 miles away. We should be more focused on the United States of America, not sending weapons and money to Zelensky. So that's not, that hasn't made Zelensky happy.
It's the closest we get to some kind of truth and de-escalation with our vote in this war. Now, Zelensky said, well, JD Vance, he just doesn't understand it, because the deeper you look at this war, the less you understand. So in other words, if you study, you don't understand my way. So he wants you to not look at the context of this war and just keep it going. If you vote for the Democrats in this election, your vote will extend this war, extend our debt to support it, extend the death of innocent Ukrainians. And
unfortunately, in Canada, too, it seems like whether you vote left or right, we're going to be supporting proxy wars that only benefit the military, pharmaceutical, industrial complex and international elitists and or millionaire, billionaire types that, that are coordinating all of this stuff at the highest levels.
Most likely eventually be a debt to send our children abroad to fight too. Not just boys, you guys, girls too, because the updated defense budget for next year does have plans to conscript women, so pay attention. Now, I absolutely do know that if you vote for Kamala Harris, you are voting for this war and probably our children in this war. I do not know if President Trump will de-escalate the war, but at least he says that he will, and the people around him seem to understand the context and be selling it to us less. So vote for Democrats if you want to die in this war and continue to tank our economy, or maybe we have a vote to end it. I don't know. You let me know what you think.
That was really interesting and really important. I really hope that more and more people are paying attention to international politics and national politics. This is the time to be doing it, ladies and gentlemen. If you think that things are going to get better without educating yourself, you couldn't be further from the truth. Nikola Tesla's last interview. I'm going to pivot now. I could talk so much about politics and Soros and Schwab and Harari and WEF and all. Anyways, but here we go. This to me is more interesting. Nikola Tesla's last interview, Deep Space Secrets. I don't agree with everything that Nikola Tesla has shared, but he's a genius. And if I was to choose someone living or dead to meet with and talk to, He would be top on that list, I think, because I would love to have had those conversations with him regarding light, regarding energy, regarding ether and dark matter and relativity, because he was very interested in that stuff as well, and I'm really educated on it. But I would also want to talk to him about electricity and magnetism, these forces and how they interact with each other, and these energies, and get more into that. And yeah, so he'd be top on my list. So the interview was found in text format. So we took the time to reproduce this interview by converting the text into an audio recording, replicating the voices of both individuals. I'm just letting you know for anyone that's just listening in and not seeing this. And that's Nikola Tesla in his old age. Okay.
Mr. Tesla, you've gained the glory of the man who got involved in the cosmic processes. Who are you, Mr. Tesla?
It's an interesting question, Mr. Smith, and I'll try to give you the right answer.
Some say you're from the country of Croatia, from the area called Lika, where together with the people are growing trees, rocks, and starry sky. They say that your home village is named after the mountain flowers, and that the house, where you were born, is next to the forest and the church.
Really, everything he said is true. I'm proud of my Serbian origin and my Croatian homeland.
Futurists say that the 20th and 21st century was born in the head of Nikola Tesla. They celebrate conversely magnetic fields and sing hymns to induction's engines. Their creator was called the hunter who caught the light in his net from the depths of the earth, and the warrior who captured fire from heaven. Father of alternating current will make the physics and chemistry dominate half the world. Industry will proclaim him as their supreme saint, a banker for the largest benefactors. In the laboratory of Nikola Tesla, for the first time, is broken atom. There's created a weapon that causes the earthquake vibrations. There are discovered black cosmic rays. 5 races will pray to him in the temple of the future because they had taught a great secret that Empedocles elements can be watered with the life forces from the ethers.
Yes, these are some of my most important discoveries. Yet, I'm a defeated man. I have not achieved the greatest of my goals.
What is it, Mr. Tesla?
I wanted to light up the whole Earth. There is enough electricity to create a second sun.
Okay, I did want to stop it on that, because when I heard that, see, when people get obsessed or a little bit more eccentric, I guess, they need to be reined in a little bit. Like, what the fuck? He wanted to light up the whole world? He wanted to create a second sun? Look at the impact that would have on our, within this earth plane, this cosmos, having 2 suns, when we're already dealing with enough of an impact because of how we're managing weather modifications, geoengineering, surface temperatures of the earth, the overdevelopment, all this stuff, the spraying of the soil and the air, and the anyway. But we need to have periods of darkness and periods of light. And if you would have, if lighting up the entire world, especially with something possibly with the equivalent strength of the sun, no, bad idea, really bad idea, life ending.
Light would appear around the equator,
Possibly.
like a ring around Saturn. Humanity is not prepared for greatness. In Colorado Springs, I have impregnated the earth with electricity. We can also water the other energies, such as positive mental energy, found in the music of Bach or Mozart, or in the verses of the great poets. Inside the earth, there are energies of joy, peace, and love that are expressed, for example, through a flower that grows from the earth, food that comes out of it, and everything that makes it the home of man. I've spent years looking for ways that this energy could influence people. The beauty and aroma of the roses can be used as a medicine, and the sun's rays as food. Life has an infinite number of forms, and the duty of scientists is to find them in all forms of matter. 3 things are essential in this regard. All I do is look for them. I know I will not find them, but I will not give them up.
What are these things?
One problem is food. What energy, stellar or terrestrial, can feed the hungry of the earth? With what wine can thirst be watered, so that people can cheer their heart and understand that they are gods? It is another thing to destroy the power of evil and the suffering in which man's life passes. Sometimes they occur as an epidemic in the depths of space. In this century, the disease had spread from Earth to the universe. The third thing is there's an excess of light in the universe. I discovered a star that...
So for me, this is a universe, this earth, this cosmos, that's being projected via electricity and magnetism, creating these hyperboloids and toroidal fields, these magnetic fields, electromagnetic fields that contain this environment, and that it's being projected on a flat plane of inertia. And that within this contained environment, nothing has either entered or exited humans. It's not possible. And I don't want to get too much into that stuff, but again, this is where I would have loved to have talked to Nicola about this and shared with him the things like the water seeking level, requiring a container, talking to him about the Earth curve calculations and how the Earth curve has been consistently debunked. There's no physical geographic horizon. I would love to talk to him about Boyle's laws and the laws of physics. And anyways, things like that, because this guy was a genius. I'm not taking that away from him. And but if he would have looked at the Earth in the correct-ish way, he could have been even greater.
That, according to the astronomical and mathematical laws, could disappear, and still nothing would change. That star is in this galaxy. Its light can be emitted with such density that it fits into a sphere smaller than an apple, and at the same time heavier than our solar system. Religions and philosophies teach that man can become the Christ, Buddha. What I am trying to prove is revolutionary and almost inaccessible. It is what must be done in the universe so that each being is born as Christ, Buddha, or Zarathustra. I know that gravity is adverse to everything I have to...
I do believe... I'm going to keep on cutting this off because, again, this is a lost interview. I still want to play it. And it's his interview, not mine. I was going to say something very important, but now I forgot because I always... I'll get it.
Buddha, what I am...
Okay, so Jesus Christ, I believe to be a representation of the sun, and it's whatever you want to call it, celestial or its path that it takes above us within this contained environment, circular spiral path that it creates. And Krishna, Apollo, Adonis, Mithras, Dionysus, countless other figures in history that we've come to know, I believe to be representations of the sun and the sun's travel path through the zodiacal belt, or the zodiac, or the zodiac belt, through the constellations, the 12 major ones.
Trying to prove is revolutionary and almost inaccessible. It is what must be done in the universe so that each being is born as Christ, Buddha, or Zarathustra. I know that gravity is adverse to everything I have to fly, and my intention is not to make flight devices, aircraft, or missiles, but to teach the individual to regain consciousness of their own wings. I'm also trying to awaken contained energy in the air. There are major energy sources. What is considered as empty space is only a manifestation of matter that is not awake. There is no empty space on this planet, nor in the universe. Black holes, of which astronomers speak, are the most powerful sources of energy and life.
On the window of your room in Hotel Waldorf Astoria on the 33rd floor, every morning the birds arrive.
A man must be sensitive to birds. This is because of their wings. The human being once had them, real and visible.
You've not stopped flying since those distant days in Smiljan.
I wanted to fly from the roof, and I fell. The calculations of the children can be mistaken. Remember that the wings of youth want to have everything in life.
Have you ever married? It is not known that you have affection for love or for a woman. Photos from the youth show you were a handsome man.
Yes. I did not. There are 2 points of view. Either one has much affection or nothing at all. The middle point serves to rejuvenate the human race. Women, for certain men, nourish and strengthen their vitality and spirit. Being alone does the same to other people. I chose that second path.
Your admirers are complaining that you are attacking relativity. The strange is your assertion that the matter has no energy. Everything is imbued with energy. Where is it?
First was energy and then matter.
Mr. Tesla, it's like when you said that you were born by your father and not on you.
Exactly.
Energy, such as electricity and magnetism, which I believe are the two forces that make us experience this Earth plane, project light at varying strengths, degrees. We've got the visible and the non-visible light spectrum, which makes up this cosmos, or whatever you want to call it. And we are all light, right? Light is what they want to call it, particles in motion, whatever you want to. We are. I know that Walter Russell says light in motion, but even just discussing light, since apparently it doesn't. It's constantly in motion. It's being redundant, but we are light beings. This Earth plane, this cosmos, whatever this. It's all light at various strengths, energy compositions. Yeah.
What about the birth of the universe? The matter is created from the original and eternal energy that we know as light. She shone, and the stars, the planets, the man, and everything on Earth and in the universe appeared. The matter is an expression of infinite forms of light because the energy is older than it. There are 4 laws of creation. The first is that the mind cannot conceive or mathematically measure the source of the whole bewildering and dark plot, and that plot fits the whole universe. The second law resides in expansive darkness, which is the true nature of light, of the inexplicable, and is transformed into light. The third law is the need for light to become a matter of light. The fourth law is
everything within this cosmos is light. So I totally agree with you. So humans, animals, trees, the soil, like this table, this counter. I mean, yeah, and things that matter for this cosmos as well is temperature, pressure, and density, and how light interacts within those mediums.
There is no beginning or end. The 3 previous laws always take place, and creation is eternal.
In the hostility to the theory of relativity, you go so far that you hold lectures against its creator at your birthday parties.
Remember, space is not curved, but the human mind that cannot comprehend infinity and eternity. If relativity has been clearly understood by its creator, he would gain immorality even physically, if it pleases him. I am a part of light, and it is music. Light fills my 6 senses. I see, hear, feel, smell, touch, and think. Thinking about it is my 6th sense. Light particles are written notes. Lightning can be an entire sonata. 1,000 lightning balls are a concert. For this concert, I created a ball of lightning that can be heard on the frozen peaks of the Himalayas. About Pythagoras and mathematics, a scientist cannot and should not infringe on these 2. Numbers and equations are signs that mark the music of spheres. If Einstein had heard these sounds, he would not have created theory of relativity. These sounds are messages directed to the mind about which life has a meaning, and that the universe exists in perfect harmony, and its beauty is the cause and effect of creation. This music is the eternal cycle of stellar skies. The smallest stars completed the composition and is also part of the celestial symphony. The heartbeats of man are part of the symphony of the earth. Newton learned.
I love that. And yeah, so he definitely was not a fan of Einstein. And so that's called out in here. I like that. I was going to talk about light again.
And that the secret is in the geometric arrangement and the movement of.
Oh, yes. So I've shared videos on this if you want to take a look, but on sonoluminescence and cymatics. And so with sonoluminescence, they call it also star in a jar. And so in order to create this light blast, there needs to be some kind of like a frequency exchange, or frequency that's played close to the beaker. Degassed elements such as sulfur utilized, and other ones can be utilized as well, and then creating these large blasts of light, which can also be created, believe it or not, at room temperature. Again, obviously, I'm talking about, so it's not just these those crabs or whatever you want to call it that are underwater, but there's also sonoluminescence being created even with snowflakes.
The celestial bodies. He acknowledged that the supreme law of harmony exists in the universe. Curved space is chaos. Chaos is not music. Einstein is the messenger of the age of noise and fury.
Mr. Tesla, do you hear that music?
I hear it all the time. My spiritual ear is as large as the sky we see above us. I raise my natural ear with the radar. According to the theory of relativity, two parallel lines will meet in infinity. That is why the curvature of Einstein's space will straighten out. Once created,
Hawking's, in his 1966 dissertation, the title was Flat Universe. That's very interesting to me as well. So sonoluminescence. And my interpretation, again, I still have, like, we could research this forever. I would love to talk to people on a panel about this stuff. But I believe that the sun and the moon are energy systems that interact in the within this cosmos synergistically, but differently to varying degrees as well. And so one being a radiating centrifugal, heating, positive. I don't know if I already said radiating force, and the other, the moon. So that's the sun, and then the moon being the electrical, centripetal, cooling, like what we call positive and negative charged, whatever you want to call them, luminaries. And there's possibly sonoluminescence at play, but one that's interacting more with like magnetic radiating forces, and the other one more gravitational electric forces. And you could see how magnetic fields and forces interact differently within different mediums, different pressure and temperature and density systems, but the same thing that can be said for electricity as well. And and the elements of the particles that as they expand and heat up and rise or get ionized, all right, so removing the electrical particles, the electrical charges from these elements, such as the gases, it would be more easier to say, but such as oxygen and helium and hydrogen, and what's comprised of our ether, these gases that make up our ether. The higher up you go, the more they become ionized, and the lighter ones, again, are what makes this radiation/magnetic field, these fields, because there's possibly 2 Van Allen belts or radiation belts, like what I like to call them. And I believe that this is ionized gases. I'm going on a tangent, but sorry. There's no frame of reference, so it's hard to discuss this stuff, just like talking to myself. Like, it's very interesting conversations that I'm having with Dojo. I would go off for hours and days talking about this stuff. But yeah, I would also like to talk to a panel about this stuff.
Sound lasts forever. For a man can disappear, but it still exists in the silence that is the greatest power of man. No, I have nothing against Mr. Einstein. He is a very kind person and has done many good things, some of which will become part of the music. I'm going to write to you and try to explain that either exist and that its particles are what keep the universe in harmony and life in eternity.
Tell me, please, under what conditions angel adopt on the earth?
I have 10 of them. I keep a good watchful record.
I will document all your words, dear Mr. Tesla.
The first requirement is a high awareness of your mission and the work to be done. It must, albeit only vaguely, exist in the first few days. Let us not be falsely modest. The oak knows that it is an oak tree, a shrub beside it which is a shrub. When he was 12, he was certain he would reach Niagara Falls. I knew from my childhood that I would get most of my discoveries, although I was not entirely clear. The second condition to adapt is determination. All I could. I finished it.
What is the third condition of adjustment, Mr. Tesla?
Guide for all the vital and spiritual energies that work. Therefore, the purification of the many effects and needs that man has. Therefore, I have not lost anything. I just won. So I enjoy every day and night. Note, Nikola Tesla was a happy man. The fourth requirement is to adjust the physical set with work.
What do you mean, Mr. Tesla?
First, the maintenance of the whole. The body of man is a perfect machine. I know my circuit and what is good for it. Food that almost all people eat, to me, is harmful and dangerous. Sometimes I visualize cooks of the world being all conspiring against my... Note, he touched my hand.
It was cold.
Yes, the bloodstream can be controlled, and many processes in and around us. Why are you scared, young man?
It's a story that Mark Twain wrote a mysterious stranger. That wonderful book of Satan inspired by you.
The word Lucifer is more charming. Mr. Twain likes to joke.
I do not think that Lucifer and Satan are representations of the same figures. I think that they're representations of the like these luminaries or wandering stars within our firmament, dome, whatever you want to call it, like within the sky. Lucifer being a representation of Venus, Hemera, Dawn, Eos, etc., etc., etc. Venus representing love, the color green, copper, which oxidizes, it's green. Anyways, that, and then Satan being a representation of, again, this is all having to do with the zodiacal belt, these astrological images or signs or symbols, whatever you want to call them, in the sky that are fixed and then move in a circular path above us, again, closer than we are led to believe, and smaller. And so when the sun travels or enters into Capricorn, this is on the 21st or the 22nd of December of every single year, depending if it's a leap year or a non-leap year. And that's when we have the least amount of daylight, the most amount of darkness in the what we're calling the northern hemisphere, or what I call closer to the center and or the north region of this Earth plane, and the sun being on the exterior path, traveling through the Tropic of Capricorn, and on its lowest point, it's 23.4 degrees south latitude of the equatorial ring or belt, whatever you want to call it. And that is a measurable distance. So it's approximately 1,660 miles away from that, within the southern or perimeter, furthest away from us, which is why we have less day and more night in the what we're calling the northern hemisphere or region, is what I like to call it. And travels into Capricorn and then Aquarius. Capricorn and Aquarius are ruled by Saturn, the luminary Saturn. Every single zodiacal image or astrological sign is ruled by a certain luminary, right? The original luminaries or planets, whatever you want to call it, there were 7, which included the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And the sun and the moon, they rule over one sign. So the sun rules over Leo, the moon rules over Cancer, and then the remaining 10 are split individually. Are split where there's pairs that make up the that are ruled by the remaining 5 planets or wandering stars or luminaries, whatever you want to call them. And so ruled by Saturn, it's a play on Saturn. So Satan, similar to Saturn. Saturn is ruled by, it rules over Capricorn and Aquarius. This is the winter months where there's more suffering, there's more darkness, colder climates, especially within like the northern regions where we have snow and where animals migrate or hibernate. There's no food that can be harvested or grown during these periods. And so this is usually a time where there's more suffering and death and or sacrificing of animals, or even during times of starvation, mass starvation, even children. Again, just to survive these months. And so when they talk about fire and brimstone and stuff like that, I believe it's because like in winter, like in order to warm up, you need fire, right? So like you're not going to warm up or start fires in areas that are already hot, right? You start fires in areas that are cold. And so, yeah, like I just think that people have a misinterpretation of astrophysics and astrotheosophy and astronomy and astrology in general. And this is stuff that I've tried to reach out to Carleton University to discuss and other education systems, because I was in my 4th year for another degree, for a science degree. And the things that I was sharing, these dissertations I was creating, these articles, these submissions I was providing, these emails, they were going nowhere because the professors didn't want to hear this stuff. The heads of departments, the heads of the institutions, I didn't get anywhere with any of this stuff. In fact, instead I got a wellness fucking check call by someone that sounded like she was 7 years old. And I mean, no offense in that, but I'm just like, did you even read the emails that you're concerned about? No. Okay. Well, look at them, because there's no anyway. People just dismiss anything that counters the like the norm, especially in the academic fields, like the scientific fields. It's just it goes nowhere still. And if that's like so anti-science, that is so anti-science. So it's just very hypocritical to me. Anyway. So my degree is still on hold until Carleton University actually reaches out to me and yeah, I know that sounds, I don't know, like egotistical, stuff like that. I don't mean that in any way. Like it's because I have a lot of information I could share. Like I have a lot of data that I've put together, terabytes worth of data. I've created notes and PowerPoint presentations that are on hand to share if people want to see them. And anyway.
As a child, I was healed once when I read his books. When we met here and told him, he was so moved that he cried. We became friends and he often came to my laboratory. He once asked me to show him a machine that vibration causes a feeling of happiness. It was one of those inventions for entertainment, which I sometimes like to do. I warned Mr. Twain not to remain under those vibrations. He ignored it and stayed longer. It ended up being like a rocket, clutching the pants and entered a certain room. It was devilishly funny, although I was serious. But to adjust the physical circuit in addition to food, sleep is very important. From a long and exhausting work, which requires a superhuman effort, after an hour of sleep, would be completely recovered. I have acquired the ability to manage sleep, fall asleep, and wake up at the designated time. If I do something I do not understand, I force myself to think of my dream and to find a solution. The fifth adjustment condition is a memory. Perhaps in most people, the brain is the guardian of knowledge about the world and knowledge gained through life. My brain is engaged in things more important than remembering. It is a gathering of what is required at a given moment. That is, everything around us. You just have to internalize it. Everything we have once seen, heard, read, and learned accompanied us in the form of particles of light. To me, these particles are obedient and files.
You often mentioned the power of visualization.
I'm going to have to thank the visualization for everything I've invented. The events of my life and my inventions are real in front of my eyes, like any occurrence or article. In my youth, I was afraid of not knowing what it is, but later I learned to use this power as an exceptional talent and a gift. He nourished and projected jealousy. I also did the corrections through visualization in most of my inventions and ended them that way. By visualizing mentally, I solved complex mathematical equations. For that gift I have, I will receive the distinction of the High Lama in Tibet. My sight and hearing are perfect, and dare I say that they are stronger than in others. I hear the thunder 150 kilometers away, and I see colors in the sky that others cannot see. This expansion of vision and hearing I have had since I was a child. Later, I developed it consciously.
In youth, you have several times been seriously ill. Is it a disease and a requirement to adapt?
Yes, it is often the result of overexhaustion or life force, but it is often the purification of the mind and body from the toxins that have accumulated. It's necessary for a man to suffer from time to time. The source of most disease is in the spirit. Therefore, the spirit can cure almost all diseases. When I was a student, I was sick with anger that ravaged the Lika region. I healed because my father finally allowed me to study technology, which was my life. The illusion for me has not been a disease, but the ability of the mind to penetrate beyond the 3 dimensions of the earth. I have had illusions all my life, and I have received them like all the other phenomena that surrounded us. Once in childhood, he was walking along the river with my uncle and said, "From the water, trout appears. I'll throw a stone and cut." That's what happened. Frightened and surprised, my uncle exclaimed, "Vade retro satana." He was an educated person and spoke in Latin. I was in Paris when I saw my mother's death. In the sky, full of light and music, clouds were missing. They were wonderful creatures. One of them had the character of the mother who looked at me with infinite love. As the vision disappeared, I knew my mother had died.
What is the 7th adjustment, Mr. Tesla?
Knowledge of how to transform mental and vital energy into what we want and achieve control of all feelings. Hindus call it Kundalini Yoga. This knowledge can be learned for what is needed many years, or can also be acquired by birth. Most of them I have acquired by birth. They are in the closest relationship with sexual energy, which is one of the most widespread in the universe. The woman is the greatest thief of that energy, and therefore of spiritual power. I have always known, and for this reason, I have been alert from myself. I have created what I wanted, a reflective and spiritual machine.
A ninth adjustment, Mr. Tesla?
Do your best, any day, any time, not to forget who we are and why we are on Earth. There are extraordinary people who are struggling with illness, deprivation, or a society that hurts them with their stupidity, incomprehension, persecution, and other problems that the country is full. There are many fallen angels on Earth.
What is the 10th adaptation?
It's the most important. Right in the magazine that Mr. Tesla has played. And he spent all his life playing and enjoyed it.
Mr. Tesla, whether it relates to your findings and your work, is it a game?
Yes, dear boy. How much I wanted to play with electricity. I always shudder when I hear the story of the Greek who stole the fire. A terrible story about tracks and eagles pecking at his liver. Could it be that Zeus did not have enough lightning and thunder and was damaged by
Pretty sure it's Prometheus. And the atomic number associated with Prometheus or Promethium, the elements is 63.
There is a misunderstanding. Lightning is the most beautiful toys that can be found. Don't forget to highlight in his text that Nikola Tesla was the first man who discovered the rays.
Mr. Tesla, we're just talking about angels and their adaptation to the Earth.
It's really the same. He can write the following. He dared to take upon himself the prerogatives of Indra, Zeus, and Piran. Imagine one of these gods in a black nightgown, with a bowler hat and white cotton gloves, preparing rays, fires, and earthquakes for the elite of New York City.
Readers love the humor of our paper, but you confuse me stating that your findings, which have immense benefits for the people, representing the game. Many will frown on it.
The problem is that people take everything very seriously. If they did not, they would be happier. A Chinese proverb says that tremendousness reduces life, but for readers of the newspaper, do not frown. Let's go back to the things that they consider important.
They would love to hear what your philosophy is.
Life is a rhythm that must be understood. I feel the rhythm. I let it lead and I consent. It was very nice and gave me the knowledge I have. All that lives is in a deep and wonderful relationship. The man and the stars, the amoebas and the sun, the heart and the circulation of an infinite number of worlds. These ties are unbreakable, but can be tamed, propitiate, and begin to create new and different relationships in the world, and not violate the old. Knowledge comes from space. Our vision is the perfect set. We have two eyes, the earthly and the spiritual. It is recommended that they become an eye. The universe is alive in all its manifestations, like a thinking animal. The stone is a thinking and sensitive being, such as plants, beasts, and a man. A star that shines has to be seen, and if we are not self-absorbed, we would understand its language and its message. The breath, the eyes, and the ears of man have to fulfill the breath, the eyes, and the ears of the universe.
As you say this, it seems to me like I hear Buddhist texts, words, or Taoist Parazuzulsa.
That's right. This means that there is a general knowledge and that there is the truth that man has always possessed. In my feeling and experience, the universe has a single substance and a supreme energy with an infinite number of the manifestations of life. The best thing is that the discovery of one secret nature reveals the other. It cannot be hidden. There are those around us, but we are blind and deaf to them. If we emotionally bind them, they come to us. There are a lot of apples, but only a Newton. He needed only one apple that fell in front of him.
And he was wrong about gravity and about the apple and about how temperature, pressure, and density impacts this cosmos and these energy forces. It's just ridiculous. There's gravitational forces, but they're not. It's not a downward acceleration of 9.8 meters per second squared. Debunked. And so, anyways, I love Nikola Tesla. Like I'm not criticizing him. Who the fuck am I to do that? Right? I'm not. He was a genius of his time for sure. Yeah, did a lot, but there's just some things that I just think differently about.
A question that might be set at the beginning of this conversation. What was electricity for you, dear Mr. Tesla?
Everything is electricity.
No.
First was the light, an endless source from which comes the material and is distributed to all forms that represent the universe and the earth with all its aspects of life. The black is the true face of light, only we do not see it. It is of notable grace to man and other creatures. Each of its particles has light, thermal, nuclear force, radiation, chemical, mechanical, and energy not yet identified. It has the power to create the Earth with its orbit.
So he talks about all these different forces. And so like the different forces of nature allegedly are, I've talked about this before, gravity, electrostatics, and then what we're calling weak and strong nuclear forces, that 4 on the list. And so what I'm saying is electrostatics and gravity, like this is electricity, and we're talking about nuclear forces. I believe that this is magnetism at play. So gravitational forces, radiating forces, how they interact with each other with these alternating and direct currents and charges, etc., within different modalities or mediums. This cosmos responds to it or interacts with it differently, but they're unified, if that makes any sense. One force, one energy, one cosmos experiencing itself dualistically. And tangent over.
It is the authentic lever of Archimedes.
Mr. Tesla, you are too biased towards electricity.
Yep.
Electricity I am, or if you prefer, I am the light in the human form. You are electricity too, Mr.
Even with light, like light rays, I've shared also like the composition of light and the absence of an electrical charge, meaning that I believe this to be magnetic, radiating, nuclear, or whatever you want to call it. I believe that these are words that operate together, if that makes any sense. And so these rays, or these, I believe to be like nuclear forces when we deal with light, and lasers and stuff like that as well. I don't want to go on too many tangents. This when I watch stuff like this, it just like my creativity side, like my brain just like explodes, right? Like there's just so much that he's saying that's just like stimulating my brain, and so I'm just I'm hoping this is not detracting away from it.
Smith, but you
In fact, I'll share the link on Rumble just so you guys can watch the full thing without my commentary.
do not realize it.
It is thus your ability to allow fails of electricity of 1 million volts through your body?
Imagine a gardener being attacked by herbs. In fact, this would be crazy. The body of a man and the brain are made of a lot of energy. In me, there is most of the electricity. The energy, which is different in each person, is what makes the human I, or soul. For other creatures, in their essence, the soul of the plant is the soul of minerals and animals. Brain function and death are manifested in the light. My eyes in youth were black. Now they are blue, and with the passage of time, as the tension of the brain becomes stronger, they will be closer to the target. What is the color of the sky? Through my window, one morning came a white dove, to which I fed him. She wanted to tell me that she was dying. Out of his eyes came streams of light. Never in the eyes of any creature had he seen so much light as in those of that dove.
Personnel in your lab speak about flashes of light, flames, and lightning that occur if you are angry or into kind of risk.
It's the psychic discharge, or a warning to be alert. The light has always been on my side. Do you know how I discovered the rotating magnetic field of the induction motor, which made me famous when I was 26? One summer afternoon in Budapest, I saw the sunset with my friend. Thousands of fires circled thousands of flaming colors. I remembered Faust and recited his verses, and then, as in a fog, I saw the magnetic field and the induction motor spin. I saw them in the sun.
Hotel service telling at the time of lightning, you isolate into the room and talk to yourselves.
I speak with lightning and thunder.
With them? What language, Mr. Tesla?
Mostly my mother tongue. The language counts with words and sounds, especially in poetry, so it's adequate.
Readers of our magazine would be very grateful if you would interpret that.
Sound does not exist only in thunder and lightning. It also exists in the transformation in brightness and color. A color can be heard. The language is of the words, which means that it is the sounds and colors. All thunder and lightning are different and have their names. I call some of them by the names of those who were close in my life, or by those whom I adore. In the brightness of the sky and thunder lived my mother, my sister, my brother Daniel, a poet, Jovan Jovanovic Zmaj. Names like Asisea, Ezekiel, Leonardo, Beethoven, Goya, Faraday, Pushkin, and all the banks of burning fires and tangles of lightning and thunder that do not stop all night burning the precious rain to the earth, burning trees or villages. There are lightning and thunder, and they are brighter and more powerful. They return, and I recognize you among thousands.
For you, science or poetry is the same?
These are the two eyes of a person. William Blake was taught that the universe was born of the imagination, which is maintained and will exist as long as there is one last man on Earth. She was the wheel with which astronomers were able to collect the stars from all galaxies. It is creative energy identical to the energy of light.
Imagination is more real to you than life itself?
It gives light to life. I have fed my thought. I have learned to control emotions, dreams, and visions. I have always appreciated how I have nurtured my enthusiasm. All my life, I have spent a lot of time in ecstasy. That was the source of my happiness. It helped me during all these years to find work, which was enough for the 5 lives. It is the best to work at night, by the stellar light and the close bond that exists.
You said that I am, like every being, the light. This flatters me, but I confess I do not quite understand.
Why is it necessary to understand, Mr. Smith? Just believe. Everything is light, and one of its rays is the fate of nations. Each nation has its own ray in that great source of light that we see, that is the sun. And remember that there is no man that has existed and has not died. It became light and as such still exists. The secret lies in the fact that the particles of light restore their original state.
This is the resurrection.
I'd rather call him back to an earlier energy. I'm looking for a way to conserve human energy. These are the forms of light, sometimes directly as celestial light. I have not sought it for my own benefit, but for the good of all. I think my discoveries make the lives of people easier and more bearable, and channel people to spirituality and morality.
Do you think that time can be abolished?
Not at all, because the first characteristic of energy is that it is.
See what he was talking about, the Earth being like three-dimensional. I was going to say it then, but I didn't want to interrupt too much. But that time is a dimension. It's the 4th dimension on this Earth plane, and how we experience this video game or simulation.
Transformed. This one is in perpetual transformation, like the clouds of the Taoists. However, it is possible to take advantage of the fact that man retains consciousness after the earthly life. In every corner of the universe, there is the energy of life. One of them is immortality, whose origin is outside of man and awaits him. The universe is spiritual, like half of us. The universe is more moral than we are because we do not know its nature and how to harmonize our life with it. I'm a scientist. Science is perhaps the most convenient way to find the answer to the question that always persecutes me and makes my days and nights become a fire.
What's the matter?
How his eyes shine. What I wanted to know is what happens to a shooting star when the sun goes down. Stars fall like dust or seed on this or other worlds, and the sun is dispersed in our minds, in the lives of many beings, which will be reborn as a new light or cosmic wind, scattered in infinity. I understand that this needs to be included in the structure of the universe. The thing is, however, that one of these stars and one of these suns, even the smallest, is preserved.
But, Mr. Tesla, you realize that this is necessary and is included in the constitution of the world.
When a man becomes conscious, his highest goal must be to run towards a shooting star and to try to capture it. He must understand.
I'm going on a tangent again, but it's because I'm getting interesting conversations. Yeah, this being some kind of it could be like a computer program, video game, whatever you want to call it. And I do believe that how we perceive this reality, perception is reality. I say that, and I believe that our mind is our segue or the medium in which we experience this, how we enter the game or the program, this simulation. and experience it using this avatar, and our higher level consciousness being whatever it is what's possibly playing these characters. It's hard to explain that. And so how we perceive, software programs, I believe that this is absolutely very intelligently designed, divinely created, whatever you want to call it, and that how this Earth plane was created, or this cosmos, the higher level technology and information required is not something that can be duplicated by humans. I just don't think inherently that we have the capacity to build this Earth, right? Just like the whatever creator or designer or architect or engineers did in order to create this Earth plane. And so how we experiencing it, like in order for it to be like run efficiently, it would be like an analog. Like again, this is not my subject matter expert when it comes to software programming. I've done a little bit of research into it, but the analogs, how we're experiencing we're only getting what we like, getting the information required in order to make this game function at that, like the most efficiently, using the least amount of energy and resources and things like that. And yeah, if that makes any sense. And so it's a very efficient game, and how we experiencing it, the more we play around in the game, the more we interact with other characters of the game, or go into like different areas, the more we're playing the game, and the more we're again, like making it like a wider. Anyway, I'll stop.
That his life was given by this and will be saved. Eventually, it will be possible to catch stars.
And what will happen then?
The Creator is going to laugh, saying, "They fall only so that you persecute them and take them."
Isn't all of this contrary to the cosmic pain, which so often you mention in your writings? And what is it, cosmic pain?
No, because we are on Earth. It is a disease whose existence the vast majority of people are not aware of, and that originates many other diseases, suffering, misery, evil, wars, and everything else, which makes human life an absurd and horrible condition. This disease cannot be completely cured, but consciousness makes it less complicated and dangerous. Every time some of my close and beloved people were injured, I felt the physical pain. This is because our bodies are made from similar material, and our soul is related to unbreakable filaments. The incomprehensible sadness that overwhelms us sometimes means that somewhere on the other side of the planet, a child or generous man died. The whole universe is in certain periods sick of itself and us. The disappearance of a star and the appearance of a comet affects us more than we can imagine. The relationships between Earth's creatures are even stronger because of our feelings and thoughts. The flower will perfume even more beautifully or fall into silence. We must learn.
Yeah, I love this. From Dojo, it is a unified field consisting of and persisting of all frequencies, to which each of us is a band within the spectrum. Vis-a-vis, the reality is co-created in unison. Yeah, I get it. I like it.
Learn these truths to be healed. The remedy is in our hearts, and equally in the heart of animals we call the universe.
This was an interesting lost interview, whatever you want to call it. Oh my goodness. I watched it, I think, at least twice before sharing with you guys. And so one more, and again, it's very interesting stuff that I love watching, because again, it just takes me away from just the reality of the world right now, and just how much it's freaking getting destroyed by morons. Anyway, well, morons that are listening to really smart people that have a lot of power and influence and wealth. So anyway, this is Our Flat Earth Journey by Taboo Conspiracy. Must see. Posted 3 years ago. But I like sharing this stuff, and like, share, and subscribe. Taboo Conspiracy, myself as well, and enjoy.
Globe and the heliocentric model, the overwhelming propaganda and censorship that is now happening. Flat earthers don't say.
Okay, sorry about that.
It is a great honor for me to be here today among friends in this beautiful land of Romania. To me, it's a bit of heaven to be here.
Oh, actually, I'm gonna present something else First, about magnets, because I like magnets. I don't know if people have noticed that. Does a motor need a magnetic field? The basic principle for all working motors is the magnetic attraction and repulsion, since a magnet no longer moves once it has attracted. A motor needs some way to manipulate the magnetic field so that the magnets attract and repel continuously. One way to do this is to have the current changing directions. And so magnetic induction refers to the production of EMF or voltage across an electrical conductor that is placed inside a varying magnetic field. So again, electricity and magnetism working synergistically together with anyway. So electricity and magnetism, it's not just an electric earth or cosmos, whatever. It's not, in my humble opinion. You can't have one without the other.
People who love the truth. Thank you all for coming. Today, I'm going to address the flat earth journey. This is especially meant for the open-minded skeptics who honestly believe that we live on a ball, flying, twirling, and vortexing through the vacuum of space. I was once like you. I believed in the globe and the heliocentric model. I never wanted to be a flat earther. But like many others here, I'm willing to accept even an unpopular truth, regardless of the consequences. And I will spread that truth to the best of my ability.
Me too.
I have never made a penny on the flat earth. I don't have anything to sell to you. I don't want your donations. I don't monetize my YouTube channel. And I don't particularly care if you subscribe. I am not here for fame. I don't want you to join any group or appoint any leader, other than maybe your friendship. I want nothing from you. I am only here to share what I strongly believe is the truth. And the truth is that the earth is flat and stationary. Initially, it's a frightening truth, as it rocks the very foundations of your understanding of how the world works. And maybe more importantly, how much you are controlled. For me, flat earth is the catalyst to break the chains that mentally, spiritually, physically, and scientifically bind humanity. And that's why it is so important to me and why I traveled here to discuss the flat earth reality with you. Are we flat earthers illiterate flunkies who dropped out of kindergarten? Or maybe you think we're a group of religious zealots who deny anything associated with science. That's how the media repeatedly describes us, but they are deceiving you. Personally, I graduated from college, magna cum laude. I even have a master's and a Juris Doctorate. Yes, I took astronomy in college and I got an A. I know the official globe narrative pretty well, and there are many others like me. Because of those many years of indoctrination, it took me hundreds of hours of arduous research and experimentation before I would accept the flat earth truth. It did not come easy. I studied every possible globe objection very well, but as I will try to show you today, the flat earth evidence is overwhelming and far outweighs the evidence of the globe, which is based primarily on conformity and name-calling. We get it. It's psychologically hard to force yourself to honestly investigate the flat earth. But it is the truth. It's beautiful. And it changes everything. Here is an axiom. Governments lie. If you have any common sense, you know that governments do indeed lie, and often. But maybe you reasonably think the flat earth lie is too big. That is a valid objection and something I want to address. I mean, how could so many people be in on this conspiracy? The answer is what I call institutionalized conformity. Like many here, my flat earth journey started somewhere else. We could talk about the lies of central banking, the Rothschilds and other banking dynasties, the lies of World War I and II, the CFR and the Trilateral Commission, vaccinations. We could even talk about Sandy Hook and the Boston bombing. They'd probably throw me in prison for that, and we don't have all day. So for time constraints, let's begin with Vietnam and the Gulf of Tonkin. Not many people have heard of the Gulf of Tonkin incident, even though the United States Congress declared war on North Vietnam after the claimed unprovoked August 4th, 1964 naval attacks in international waters against America by North Vietnam. After the supposed August 4th attacks by North Vietnam, the United States Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which granted President Lyndon Johnson the authority to assist any Southeast Asian country whose government was considered to be jeopardized by communist aggression, thus bringing America into the Vietnam War. LBJ recognized the importance of the Gulf of Tonkin resolution when he quipped that the resolution was like grandma's nightshirt. It covers everything. A few days after the Gulf of Tonkin resolution was passed, President Johnson stated, "Hell, those damn stupid sailors were just shooting at flying fish." As the president alluded, the August 4th, 1964 attacks never happened. It was fake, phony. It was artifice. And all investigations have indicated the same. The Gulf of Tonkin incident is now an admitted hoax perpetrated by the U.S. government. Humanity was lied to, and America went to war under deliberate false pretense. And there's nothing funny about that. A major, catastrophic evil war was fought as a result of this fabricated event. Hundreds of thousands of people died as a consequence of this conspiracy. But here's my question to you. How many people were punished as a result of this admitted heinous lie that led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands? 0. I would think wide-scale murder and treason would be of some concern to our enforcement agencies, but it doesn't seem like they cared. So we have a huge, whopping lie that led to hundreds of thousands of deaths that is whitewashed by our governments, our media, academia, and our police enforcement agencies. Are big lies possible? Gulf of Tonkin says yes. Let's talk about Operation Northwoods. Operation Northwoods was an admitted Department of Defense 1962 memorandum that called for the CIA or other U.S. government operatives to commit acts of terrorism against American civilians and military targets, blaming them on the Cuban government and using it to justify a war against Cuba. Damn, that sounds familiar. The plans detailed in the document include the possible assassination of Cuban emigres, sinking boats of Cuban refugees on the high seas, hijacking planes, blowing up a U.S. ship, and orchestrating violent terrorism in U.S. cities. The treasonous U.S. Department of Defense was openly proposing to commit acts of terrorism against American civilians in U.S. cities. It was the proposed murder of Americans so that America would go to war to murder others. Fortunately, these proposals were allegedly rejected by John F. Kennedy. I'm not so sure if that helped Kennedy's career, though. Are big conspiracies possible? The Department of Defense thought so. Which brings us to 9/11. Regardless of whether the United States committed this horrific act of terrorism against its citizens directly, or whether the U.S. government was just an accessory in the commission of, or after the fact, Building 7 is the smoking gun proof of this huge conspiracy, as Building 7 was not allegedly hit by an airplane, and yet it collapsed symmetrically and at free fall speeds. I'm sorry, but office fires cannot collapse a steel-constructed building symmetrically and at free fall speeds. It is nonsense. More than 3,000 licensed architects and engineers have said the same, and the numbers keep growing. Even a group of academic engineers in Alaska recently reached the same conclusion, but you didn't hear about that on the news. Interestingly, just a few weeks ago, CNBC senior analyst and former anchor Ron Insana openly stated that Building 7 was brought down by controlled demolition. Again, you probably didn't hear about that. Why were there no mainstream discussions of Building 7, an obvious demolition that would have had to have been wired to explode long before September 11th? Why didn't you hear about this gentleman, Barry Jennings, who is now dead? He actually worked for the government in Building 7. Jennings was a very credible witness. He was the deputy director of the Emergency Services Department for the New York City Housing Authority, and he worked in Building 7 on 9/11. He described an abandoned building and then explosions in the lower levels of Building 7 before any of the other two towers came down. I don't want to make this a conference about 9/11, but 9/11 proves to any sensible, truth-seeking person that we have been lied to on a massive scale, and our governments, media, academia, military, police forces, and major institutions aren't there to provide the truth or to punish those evildoers. Instead, these institutions are there to only control the narrative and make sure we, the people, do not get out of hand. Please go to AE 9/11 Truth to learn more. One other thing 9/11 indicates is that the evil cabal that controls things has hired hundreds of propagandists, publications, so-called experts, media darlings, and their agents who do nothing but belittle truth seekers, lie, and promote the official narrative. These despicable sellouts are the scum of the earth, and they are everywhere. Unlike Big Brother in the book 1984, our Ministry of Truth uses a conglomeration of governments, institutions, schools, media, companies, religions, and their agents to control us from every direction while operating under the grand illusion of separation. There are no checks and balances. Are big lies possible? 9/11 unequivocally says yes. I'm going to speak about the phony NASA moon landings tomorrow, but one thing you should note is that every government and all of our media outlets and other institutions claim that these wire-dangling astronauts landed on the moon 50 years ago. These liars supposedly fell at 4,000 miles per hour in this piece of junk that was never flown even once on Earth. They then later attached a fold-up dune buggy and lived 3 days in this untested papier-mâché craft in the harshest environment imaginable. They want you to believe that NASA operated this camera 234,000 miles away while it panned and zoomed out in real time while filming this ridiculous contraption that's obviously missing the thrust from the end of the nozzle. You can even see telltale signs of 1960s movie backdrops during all of the alleged landings. Are big conspiracies possible? Yes, without question. The phony moon landings, 9/11, and Gulf of Tonkin prove that these bastards can lie to us big time and that none of our major institutions are there to help us expose them or hold them accountable. These evil people have lied to us repeatedly, so why would you trust them? The truth is left to us, you, me, and the grassroots community, which brings us to the flat earth.
There we go.
In every nation and in every city, schools consider the shape of the earth a fundamental scientific fact, and that supposed fact is repeatedly taught from day one all the way through graduate school. Yet no one has seen this globe or its curvature or its effects, but it's still taught as a fundamental fact based solely on faith in our institutions. Much like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, the globe is truly a faith-based religious system with the Big Bang, gravity, and nature as our creators. In addition to incessant educational programming, the spherical Earth is shown in countless movies, television shows, video games, books, comics, newspapers, businesses, and websites. Pay attention. They put the sphere and the alleged curvature in nearly everything in the media. It is no exaggeration that every day there's a news story, new movie, picture, or show regarding so-called space supporting your understanding of the globe Earth and outer space. The globe indoctrination is ubiquitous and unrelenting. Moreover, the spherical Earth is fully supported by every major religion: Catholics, Protestants, Mormons, Muslims, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism. All major religions support the spherical Earth. There is no other symbol that is shown with as much pride and zeal than the globe Earth. Moreover, the term flat earther is a well-known pejorative term to refer to someone as anti-science or anti-facts. If you ever want to ruin your reputation among a group of people, just refer to yourself as a flat earther, and the mocking will begin by even your closest loved ones. I guarantee that every flat earther here knows this as a personal fact.
Yep.
Ask yourself, why does questioning the globe Earth cause such a knee-jerk, negative emotional response? Like Pavlov's dogs, when you mention the flat earth to anyone, almost without exception, the listener will be enraged, salivating at the mere mention of it. We get it, but please try to set aside that Pavlovian response and just allow yourself to have a legitimate discussion with us, even out of intellectual curiosity. So what has caused we flat earthers, who probably number in the millions now, to abandon our educational foundations, all mainstream science, every major religion, and all of our news, entertainment, and media?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to clarify things with that Taboo Conspiracy. Like, this is from a few years ago, so they may have differing updated views now regarding religions, because in the King James version of the Christian Bible, even the Quran, there are multiple verses, passages within these texts, and other religions as well, where there's this discussion of, like, for example, even the firmament, like the whole like tent, 4 quarters of the earth. Like, there's a lot of discussion about this being a flat, stationary plane with a firmament, and so there you go.
Media to support an idea that is even used as a slanderous term to refer to someone as an idiot. In a nutshell, Flat Earth is about hundreds, if not thousands, of grassroots tests, experiments, and observations that consistently belie the globe model. New experiments, tests, and observations are coming out every day from every nation, unequivocally indicating that the globe is false, and we truly do live on a flat and stationary Earth. There is no faith involved. It's a testable fact. But I'm going to show you right now who's to blame for the flat Earth revolution. Here are the 3 primary culprits: the curvature formula, the Nikon P900, and YouTube. Those 3 things changed my life forever, and it shocked me to my core. Culprit 1, the curvature formula. Back in 1838, Samuel Rowbotham tested the purported Earth's curvature with a telescope standing 8 inches above the water while he watched a boat remain visible for a distance of 6 miles, which should have been impossible under the official globe dimensions. In fact, the boat should have been mathematically hidden 16 feet below the horizon, but it wasn't. Rowbotham's book, Zetetic Astronomy, is a must-read, where he includes many other tests as well. In Zetetic Astronomy, Rowbotham introduced the world to the curvature formula. Now, I understand Romania uses the metric system, however, I'll be using mostly the imperial system for simplicity, so please bear with me. I want everyone in the audience to please show me by raising your hands how many of you know the answer to this question. 8 inches per? Please, everyone say it with me. 8 inches per mile squared. How did an entire audience know this mathematical expression? 8 inches per mile squared represents how much a distant object should be hidden below the horizon from a ground level view based on the official mathematical dimensions of the Earth. That is a ball Earth with a circumference of 24,901 miles. The curvature formula is a mathematical certainty for all observable distances with respect to the imaginary globe Earth. Rowbotham stated the curvature drop formula very well. If the Earth is a globe and is 25,000 English statute miles in circumference, the surface of all standing water must have a certain degree of convexity. Every part must be an arc of a circle. From the summit of any such arc, there will exist a curvature or declination of 8 inches in the first statute mile. In the second mile, the fall will be 32 inches. In the third mile, 72 inches or 6 feet, as shown in the following diagram. So, at 1 mile, a distant object should drop 8 inches. Not a big deal. But let's look at 4 miles. Remember, 8 inches per mile squared, you square the miles. 4 miles times 8 inches divided by 12 equals 10.6 feet. A curvature drop of 10.6 feet at just 4 miles. Now wait a second, we could take binoculars out and easily see 4 miles on a clear day. What about a distance of 8 miles? 8 miles times 8 inches divided by 12 equals 43 feet or 13.1 meters. Now, I bet there are a few people here who have stood at the edge of a lake on a clear day with binoculars and could see the shore on the other side 8 miles away. But there should have been roughly a drop of 43 feet. Let's be clear, there is an adjustment for observation height, but even at an observation height of 6 feet above the water and a distance of 8 miles, 17 feet should be hidden by the curvature of the Earth, and yet you can see people walking on the beach at the opposite shore. I have an older friend of mine who grew up in a house right next to Utah Lake. He immediately knew there was a problem when presented with the fact about 8 inches per mile squared, because throughout his life, when visibility was high, he would take binoculars out and could see the other shore 10 miles away. So how much drop should there be at 10 miles or 16.1 kilometers? 10 times 10 times 8 inches divided by 12 equals 67 feet or 20.4 meters. This is a 67-foot statue. Does anyone here think they've seen this much curvature drop at 10 miles? This entire statue would be hidden behind the curvature of the Earth at only 10 miles away. No one has seen this curvature, and the flat Earth video evidence is overwhelming. What about 20 miles? 266-foot drop. 50 miles, 1,666-foot drop. 100 miles, 6,667-foot drop. As you can see, at 100 miles distance, the curvature drop is so substantial that it would hide a 6,667-foot tall mountain like this one here, Mount Drum in Alaska. The prominence of this mountain is 6,710 feet, very close. How many people have witnessed a drop this tall while driving 100 miles along a coastal road? You can see 100 miles with a high zoom camera. No one has witnessed this curvature. The Suez Canal, as shown in this video, is 120 miles long. Under your official globe model, that's a curvature drop of 9,600 feet or 2,926 meters. That's about the prominence of Mount Shasta, shown here. Do you see a curvature drop of 9,600 feet along the Suez Canal in this video that could hide Mount Shasta? I don't. Another important question is, why haven't you ever heard about the very fun fact that the Earth supposedly drops at 8 inches per mile squared? Everyone's heard of E equals mc squared, and no one can apply that to reality. But up until just a few years ago, no one ever heard of the Earth's supposed curvature drop of 8 inches per mile squared, even though every person should see this on a daily basis. Imagine how fun that would be in a classroom to demonstrate the shape of the Earth by measuring the supposed curvature drop of a city that's 30 miles away, by using a simple math that a 10-year-old would comprehend. But no one was ever taught this in a classroom, not even in surveying courses. Why? The 8 inches per mile squared formula is very accurate over all visible distances. Let me reiterate. 8 inches per mile squared isn't some math we flat earthers made up. These are the actual factual numbers based on the official dimensions of the Earth, and you are welcome to do the math or plug the information into engineering software to verify it. I didn't believe it at first, and even Google used to falsely claim that it was only 8 inches per mile. I had to double check the math on AutoCAD just to be sure. It is a mathematical certainty that does not fit with actual repeated observations and tests. You do have to consider the height of the observer, and so you subtract the distance to the alleged globe horizon from your distance to the object. For example, I use a distance to the globe horizon calculator like this one. So if I'm on the beach observing at 6 feet height, the maximum horizon distance under the globe would only be 3 miles. If I'm looking at an object at 10 miles distance across the water while standing at the water's edge, I first subtract the 3 miles distance to the horizon to get 7 miles distance, and then I apply the 8 inches per mile squared formula. So 7 times 8 inches divided by 12 equals 33 feet. That means for an observer 6 feet tall at the water's edge, that object 10 miles away should be hidden behind 33 feet of curvature. That's huge. That's measurable and testable. Or you can simply input the information here on this calculator. It is very accurate over all observable distances, those distances under 500 miles. The globe model proof relies upon an implausible story about a well and a shadow in ancient Egypt that has varying interpretations. In contrast, flat earthers rely on actual concrete measurements that anyone can make to measure the supposed curvature of the Earth if there was one. Here's an infamous example of the curvature problem. How many people here can quote this weatherman? What you're seeing here is a mirage. Why is he saying that? Because the entire city of Chicago should be hidden behind the curvature of the Earth. Does that look like a mirage to you? Of course it's not. It's bullshit. Everyone here probably had warning bells go off when you heard that weatherman make that ridiculously false statement. That is no mirage. That is a direct line of sight that is often obstructed by haze, miraging, atmospheric distortion, weather, or larger, closer waves and swells that have a large respective angular size. The hired liars out there will use these obvious atmospheric distortions or large swells and waves as proofs of the curvature. Don't let the deceivers trick you, because they're going to try. Here's another one. In this clip, the news lady again says that you're seeing a mirage. It's a photograph from Michigan to Milwaukee at a distance of 80 miles. The top of the tallest building in Milwaukee should be 3,102 feet below the horizon, according to the spherical model, but we can see much of the city line. Do you think that's line of sight or selective curvature hopping mirages that just happen to present a flat Earth? Can you allow yourself to see the problem here? I don't care if you believe me right now, but you as a rational thinking individual need to grab your telescope and your binoculars and head out to the lake or ocean on a calm, high visibility day without miraging, and you will see the flat Earth for yourself. We see too far. There is no Earth curvature at 8 inches per mile squared. That is a fact. That brings us to culprit 2. What would have happened if Rowbotham in 1838, who was claiming that he could see too far, could have live streamed his 6-mile test on YouTube? Well, maybe things would have been different. The YouTube platform enabled hundreds, if not thousands of us to conduct similar curvature and other tests, like Rowbotham. YouTube enabled us to share our observations with millions of people, and they could see it for themselves. Flat Earth is founded on repeatable observations and tests that anyone here can perform, and millions of people are seeing the truth despite the overwhelming propaganda and censorship that is now happening. Flat Earthers don't say, believe us. Flat Earthers say, believe no one. Test it for yourself. Because of the Flat Earth revolution, YouTube has taken active steps to stop the Flat Earth on its website, as openly stated in Congress by the president of YouTube, as shown right here. Yes, the president of YouTube proclaimed that YouTube would suppress Flat Earth and promote the official story, and it's YouTube's official policy. And so it's hard to find genuine Flat Earth researchers anymore.
Yep.
YouTube is now actively banning and suppressing peace-loving people like me, while simultaneously promoting the official globe narrative. But Google's censorship cannot undo what has been done. Humanity has discovered that there is indeed no curvature to the Earth, and that truth will not be suppressed because you can see it for yourself with merely a telescope or high zoom camera. Even though it has become a bastion of censorship now, I still want to thank YouTube for its unwitting help, and especially those first Flat Earth pioneer YouTubers like Eric Dubay, ODD Reality, Mark Sargent, Jeranism, Rob Skiba, DITRH, Mr. Thrive and Survive, My Perspective, Braid, Glowbusters, the speakers here, and so many more.
Yep.
Thank you. Now we're to the third culprit for the Flat Earth revolution. We already discussed the curvature chart, but now we're going to test its application, which brings us to the Nikon P900. They now have a Nikon P1000, but this P900 changed everything. Nikon made it easy and affordable to zoom in at 83 times magnification, record it, and then upload the video to YouTube and other video sharing sites. I thought Flat Earthers were maybe faking their tests, so I bought this camera so I could see it for myself. Flat Earthers aren't faking anything. Unlike the globe model propagandists, you don't have to trust us. Flat Earth isn't word of mouth anymore. I can show you the actual video proof again and again and again. Before I start discussing the proofs of the Flat Earth, It's necessary to first address the ridiculousness of the official heliocentric model because you probably haven't really thought about it. I didn't. I just parroted information in my classrooms to get the grade. Shockingly, very few people even know what the official heliocentric model is. Let's just cover a few of the numbers. If you believe in official heliocentrism, you believe that the wobbling and tilted Earth is rotating 1,037 miles per hour at the equator. The speed of sound is 767 miles per hour. So the ground you're standing on, at least on the equator, is allegedly moving at 1.4 times the speed of sound. Can you think of any evidence of the Earth's rotation? Wouldn't you think that this movement would be evident in the atmosphere, that airplanes, clouds, and weather balloons would be affected by the ground's movement at 1,037 miles per hour? The fact is that there's no evidence of the ground's rotation whatsoever. Foucault pendulums and the supposed Earth's Coriolis effect are nonsense. They are absurd lies.
Well, they're debunked.
Second, if you believe in heliocentrism, you believe that the Earth is moving in its orbit around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour. Even Einstein said you can't detect the Earth's movement by any optical experiment. So why do you believe in this nonsense other than you just take it on faith? But it doesn't end there. Next, the official model says that the sun is also moving at approximately 450,000 miles per hour, and all of the planets are somehow being dragged by the sun's gravity as the sun rockets through space around the Milky Way galaxy. With all these inconceivable and undetectable movements, the North Star has remained fixed year after year and has been that way throughout recorded history.
Yep. Throughout recorded history, yep.
Next, you believe the entire Milky Way galaxy, including our sun and the North Star, is traveling at 1.34 million miles per hour towards the constellation Hydra. If you believe in heliocentrism, you believe the Earth is moving in a vortex through space like this at over 1 million miles per hour. Of course, this video isn't correctly scaled, but it's even more ridiculous when you think of it correctly scaled. But I want you to think about this. All of the so-called planets and their moons are all supposed to be on the same plane with the sun, but rocketing with the sun at unimaginable speeds, being pulled by gravity. How would gravity hold these planets on the same plane as the sun? How surprised would you be at firing a bowling ball, representing our sun, and then have tiny BBs up to 3,000 feet away orbiting around the zooming bowling ball, sun, and still maintaining the same speed with the bowling ball? It's nonsense, especially when you consider that those tiny BBs have other tiny BBs rotating around them, all maintaining the same plane with our bowling ball sun. Think about comets that zip away from the sun to then, 70 years later, like Halley's Comet, to catch back up with the sun on a tabular schedule. Are these comets attached by rubber bands? How did they catch back up? I don't care how many degrees you have. This is stupid. Look at this footage of star trails. Think of how impossible it would be to film these trails as the Earth is supposedly wobbling, tilted, rotating at 1,000 miles per hour, orbiting at 66,600 miles per hour, and chasing after a sun zooming at 450,000 miles per hour. As pointed out in the book Kings Dethroned, modern astronomy is built upon shameful blunder after shameful blunder. It's fascinating how few honest, educated people have found these blunders. But that's the power of institutionalized conformity. Even the most educated become nothing but mere parrots of their institutions. But let's get to some of the proofs of the flat Earth. For those who have been watching my YouTube channel, some of these tests are repeats, so please be patient. This video is really meant for the skeptics. Exhibit 1. Reservoir 6.3 mile sun reflection test. What you're seeing right now is my first curvature test back in April 2016. I had been researching flat Earth since October 2015, but this was the first time I tested it with my Nikon P900. I chose a distance of 6 miles because I wanted to test whether Robotham was telling the truth. He was. In this test, my wife was carrying a mirror at the opposite end of a reservoir, reflecting the sunlight from 6.3 miles away. I watched my wife place the mirror into the water. However, under the globe model, and that's taking the observation height into consideration, my wife should have been entirely obstructed by the curvature with a target hidden height over 12 feet. 12 feet should have been hidden by the alleged curvature, but there is simply no curvature over that her reservoir. I also want to quickly address the globe refraction argument. This is a still from the video. Here it is cropped and zoomed in. Here is a picture of what it looks like on the opposite shore, and you can see the strange branch that projects horizontally. If 12 feet should have been hidden behind the curvature, then my footage from 6.3 miles should have looked something like this. But the globe liars out there will claim that this 12-foot section hopped the curvature and is a mirage. But here's the problem with that. If this 12-foot section inexplicably hopped the curvature, then why didn't the rest of the view get distorted? There would be a cascading distortion effect. As you can see, there is no distortion accounting for this curvature hopping. Exhibit 2, Utah Lake 7.53 mile spotlight test. This was my next flat earth test at Utah Lake in May 2016. This time my wife was carrying a spotlight 7.53 miles away, and I watched her place the spotlight right up to the water's edge. At 7.53 miles, my wife should have been entirely hidden by the curvature with a target hidden height of 21 feet. As you can see, the water is calm and flat. Obviously, this isn't a mirage. This is a direct line of sight to the other shore. In order to see this far, you need very calm water without miraging or atmospheric distortion. Be cautious. The liars out there will take pictures of distant mirages and call that the missing curvature. Exhibit 3, Utah Lake 7.53 mile frozen spotlight test. For this test, I reversed the previous Utah Lake test and I conducted this test in freezing conditions. Like the last time, my wife's spotlight should have been hidden 21 feet below the horizon. What's also important about this video is the fact that all the lights and the reflections are symmetrical. A globe supporter wants you to believe that the spotlight is selectively arcing over the curvature, which is absurd. But if that's the case, then how come all of these lights are symmetrical, like they're above a mirror? Which of these lights are mirages? Which ones are selectively jumping over the hump of curvature? You would not see this unmistakable mirror symmetry if the globe model refraction claim was correct. Furthermore, my wife carried the spotlight from 50 feet up to the water surface. When did she turn into a mirage? Notwithstanding the absurd objections, it is obvious that the lake is flat. Water seeks its own level. So long as viewing conditions are clear, the globe model fails again and again. But don't trust me. Go out and do these tests yourself. Exhibit 4, the horizon test. What is the horizon? Under the globe model, the horizon is a physical barrier caused by the alleged curvature. Under the globe, the horizon marks the point where the water or ground geometrically begins to obscure distant objects. This is the official position. As I mentioned earlier, you can use a calculator like this one to determine the distance to the alleged globe physical horizon. In contrast, the flat earth model says that the horizon is a matter of perspective. Artists get it. You'll see the same in a long corridor or in a tunnel. Just like how railroad tracks meet at the horizon, the ground and the sky similarly meet at the horizon. Do you think it's just coincidence that railroad tracks come together at the horizon? No, this is all a matter of perspective and has nothing to do with the physical curvature barrier. You can see this truth of perspective by just looking at the clouds at the horizon. You can see that the clouds follow perspective lines and are not bending around a curvature. In fact, you don't see any bending of clouds to match the curvature whatsoever. This is how sunsets work on a flat Earth. I have spent a lot of time and effort in testing the alleged globe horizon, and the globe model does not match reality whatsoever. For this horizon test, I was at the Great Salt Lake in Utah. I was observing a small piece of land at a distance of 1.34 miles. I brought the camera down to just a few inches above the water. Under the globe model, at just a few inches above the water, the horizon could not be further than 0.7 miles away. That's the maximum horizon distance under the globe model. There should not be any water visible beyond 0.7 miles, but you can clearly see the horizon extending many miles further than possible under the globe model. The naysayers will claim that this is a mirage or that the water is selectively refracting. Think about that. They're claiming that the bulge of water disappeared in front of the peninsula and then rose up miles beyond the peninsula, but did not affect the peninsula with this magical act. The refraction excuse is nonsense, and each observation I've shown you so far clearly proves that. Exhibit 5, BMLS B69 and the oil platforms. This video is from my friend BMLS B69 in California. For this video, he's at an elevation of 105 feet. There are 3 oil platforms he's filming. The closest one is at 10.9 miles. The second is at 21.9 miles, and the third is at 26.4 miles. From that elevation, the horizon line cannot be further than 12.6 miles. In other words, under the globe model, the horizon should appear before the second platform, and 59 feet of the second platform should be hidden by the curvature. As you can see with your own eyes, the horizon is not only beyond the second platform, the horizon is beyond the third platform, further than 26.4 miles. 130 feet of the third platform should have been hidden below the horizon, but none of the platform is obstructed. We know this since the horizon is beyond the third platform. Did the bulge of water selectively disappear from in front of the second platform and then reappear well beyond the third platform? And this disappearing and reappearing magic effect happened all without affecting the two platforms themselves? Are you skeptics starting to see the problem with the globe yet? What do you do when the evidence you can reasonably gather completely contradicts your indoctrinated presumptions? Will you allow yourself to question your indoctrination, or will you hold fast to your comfortable conformity? I can show you many more of these horizon tests, all proving the globe model faults. But let's get to some of the laser tests. Exhibit 6, D. Marble's 10-mile laser test. This laser test was by D. Marble. In this case, the person holding the laser was at 7 feet, shooting the laser at a distance of 10 miles. At 10 miles under the globe model, the observer would have to be at a height of 30 feet in order to see the laser source. Instead, you can see the source of laser at just inches above the water. That water is flat, and the laser source proves that it is not being obscured behind the curvature. The liars have tried to confuse the issue by claiming the laser wasn't level, but that's entirely irrelevant, since if the laser was angled downward, it would have hit the ledge curvature quicker. If the laser was pointed upward, then the observers would still not have seen the source, because the source of the laser would still have been hidden behind the alleged curvature. This footage would be impossible if we were living on a globe. Exhibit 7, Dr. John Dee's 9.5-mile laser test. Now, the following test was by Dr. John Dee, who has a PhD in spectrophotometry. Like many other tests he has conducted, Dr. John goes through painstaking detail to confirm that over a distance of 9.5 miles, there's absolutely no curvature. 39 feet should have been hidden. Dr. John repeatedly took sea and air temperatures, height.
Okay, this is where like he and I are like in a bit of a disagreement with the measurements. He's close. He said 39 feet. I'm just going to present the globe Earth calculation models. This one's Pythagoras specifically, so right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. This is the Pythagorean proof of curvature for a ball with a radius of 3,959 miles. Again, that's what the calculations are derived off of, is the alleged radius, diameter, and circumference of the Earth, which it's not. And then so you would need some kind of a downward slope and a physical geographic horizon in order to create the shape of this alleged globe, and we're not seeing that. That's the point of this. And the further out you go, based on like the calculations for a globe or a ball, there would be like a substantial drop or decline after not very far out. And so you have here, sorry, I'll go back out. Okay, so drop by geometric construction. So this is the amount of miles, feet, inches that would be obscured over this alleged curve. At 1 mile, it'd be approximately 0.67 feet or 8 inches of curvature, alleged curvature. At 2 miles, 2.67 feet or approximately 32 inches. So he was at between 9 and 10 miles. And at that, there'd be anywhere at 9 miles, there's allegedly 54.01 feet of curvature. And at 10 miles, approximately 66.6 alleged feet of curvature. That would be that would obscure an object at that distance. And we're not seeing that. So when he's saying 39, I don't understand where he's getting that from. There's multiple different globe Earth calculators also online that would give like the same data. Some are a little bit different, but so anyway, he's giving more credence to the globies, but still absolutely refuting their claims. and debunking the alleged Earth curve calculator anyway. So I didn't want to bring it up, but I think it's important because there are people that are watching this that do know the calculations at varying distances.
Weather, humidity, and atmospheric readings. This is a legitimate scientist proving that we've been told a lie. Exhibit 8, FE Core 25-mile laser test. FE Core is an independent scientific foundation. You can read about FE Core's powerful laser test here. The laser test.
What it could be, he's calculating. Sorry, I'm gonna back that up because he could be calculating based on being at a higher elevation, and or who knows. So anyway.
This was over a distance of 25 miles. All atmospheric conditions and temperatures were taken, and there's nothing there that accounts for the fact that they were able to see the laser 25 miles away. 297 feet should have been hidden below the horizon. That's the height of a skyscraper. And FE Core filmed the laser at just 5 feet above the water. Exhibit 9,
5 feet above the water.
Salton Sea 18-mile sun reflection and laser test. Out of all of the tests that I've seen, this is probably my favorite so far. A group of researchers went to the...
Oh yeah, for anyone watching that's not familiar or aware of this, November, I filmed San Clemente Island from 75 miles away with Jaron. It was incredible. So Jaron and November, countless other people, Dave Weiss, Rob Skiba, people that are talking about flat Earth and have been for years. Well, rest in peace, Rob Skiba. He passed away, unfortunately, a couple of years ago. Look into that. And how he was treated at the hospital. Like his wife gets into it as well with the accounts that were happening. And anyway, but people have gone out that have actually tested these claims.
Salton Sea in California and tested.
Notice the globe earthers aren't.
The curvature with both a laser and a sunset mirror flash. These tests were huge because the test was at a distance of 18 miles, and you can see it all on video with multiple witnesses. Again, that's 18 miles shore to shore. As you can see here, they were able to see and film the reflection of the mirror that was 18 miles away from the camera. 150.
Crow 777 and there's multiple other accounts as well, like that are showing these infrared videos, this footage, and it is going well beyond what even the Nikon P900X, whatever it's called. Anyway, like the infrared, you see way beyond what we see with even our advanced cameras and telescopes and stuff like that, based on the light that enters the camera. And anyway, very interesting.
55 feet should have been hidden. 155 feet. This minaret in Uzbekistan is 150 feet tall. According to the globe model, you would have to be standing on this minaret to see the reflection of the sunlight 18 miles away like that. In addition to the sun reflection tests, they also conducted a laser test. Here is the laser from 18 miles. You can even see the reflection of the laser on the flat water. Do you think it's possible that the source of the laser and its reflection both selectively hopped over the curvature to present a false flat Earth? Exhibit 10, J. Tolan Media 1 infrared observations. J. Tolan Media 1 is a well-educated engineer who has been destroying the gold model with many infrared observations and other tests. Just look at these videos and photographs taken from an airplane at 30,000 feet. In some cases, he is viewing further than 500 miles with infrared. A complete impossibility under the globe model.
Yep.
All of his tests and observations are indicating a flat Earth, and it's simply beautiful what God has given us. Exhibit 11, Beyond Horizons website. Beyond Horizons isn't a flat Earth website, but it is a repository of record-breaking long-distance photographs on the surface of the Earth. There are dozens of globe-defined photographs on this website. Here's the record photograph of Peak Gaspard at a distance of 275 miles or 443 kilometers. With an observation height of 9,272 feet, the very top of Peak Gaspard at 12,730 feet should have been hidden 3,772 feet below the horizon. I literally could point to hundreds of these globe-defined photographs and videos. Based on the evidence, I think that any reasonable person watching this would understand that we see too far. And if you want more photographic and video evidence, go to my YouTube channel, Taboo Conspiracy 2, because this was just a sampling of the many proofs that we see too far.
Yep.
But let's move on to some of the other major proofs of the flat Earth, because it doesn't end with just these optical and laser measurements.
This should be enough, but it's
Exhibit
not.
12, airplanes and gyroscopes. Now that we understand that the globe model requires that the Earth drop away at 8 inches per mile squared, shouldn't airplanes have to continually dip their noses to account for this drastic change? Think about a pilot who levels out and flies the airplane at 500 miles per hour for just 10 minutes. That would require a correction of roughly 4,630 feet after just 10 minutes. Pilots would unquestionably know of this curvature correction, but it doesn't exist. Pilots don't have to dip their nose to correct for the curvature, regardless of the speed or altitude of the airplane. No pilot makes this adjustment. Pilots fly over a flat and stationary Earth. Furthermore, the sensitive mechanical gyroscope in the airplane, which retains rigidity in space, indicates neither curvature nor rotation of the Earth. Gyroscopes also prove a flat and stationary Earth. Exhibit 13, Guglielmo Marconi. On December 12, 1901, Guglielmo Marconi received a radio transmission across the Atlantic Ocean at a distance of 2,135 miles. A lot of people told Marconi that it was impossible to send a radio signal that far due to the alleged curvature of the Earth. In fact, under the globe model, those skeptics were right, as there would be a curvature drop of 527 miles over that distance.
Mm-hmm.
A drop of 527 miles is huge. Do you think that radio signals traveling at the speed of light can jump a curvature that size? The distances of radio transmissions have gotten much further since Marconi, again proving there is no curvature. Every time no curvature is proven through actual experimentation, mainstream science counters with imaginary new reasons why the Earth only appears to be flat. Due to Marconi, the ionosphere was imagined and created. Exhibit 14, Nicobine. Nicobine was a VHF, that's very high frequency radio targeting system used by German bombers in World War II. Nicobine was a line of sight targeting system. For this example, there were two beams, one from Stolberg, located 443 miles away from the target, Derby, England. The second was from Cleve, 331 miles away from Derby. What's fascinating is that the leading government science advisor for Churchill, Frederick Lindemann, refused to believe that there was such a beam due to the curvature of the Earth. The advisor was right. There should have been a major problem with the curvature, as VHF beams do not allegedly wrap around the curvature. It turns out that the Nicobine system did exist, and people lost their lives because Lindemann believed in the curvature. But the fact remains that Nicobine was a line-of-sight targeting system. Accordingly, Wikipedia and other websites claim that the German bombers remained within line of sight of the two beams. What's the problem then? There absolutely should not have been a line of sight with the bombers. With hidden heights at approximately 64,844 feet and 117,504 feet, there was no way for these Nicobine systems to have line of sight with bombers that only flew at 19,200 feet. The Nicobine targeting system proved there was no curvature. Exhibit 15, Loran C. Loran C was a naval positioning system used for decades, allegedly up to the 1990s. Essentially, it worked by two radio towers on the coast that would transmit radio waves across the ocean. The Loran system would use the difference in the timing of the radio signals to calculate the vessel's location. This system was highly accurate and is probably the same underlying application used today that is referred to as GPS. If you're looking at the map, you probably already see the problem. These stations, hundreds of miles apart, could be 1,000 miles away from the vessel, meaning these radio waves would have to have hopped a curvature up to 100 miles tall. The official explanation is that these radio waves traveling at the speed of light hug the surface of the Earth and wrap around the curvature, inexplicably jumping bulges of water and earth dozens of miles tall. Does that sound believable to you? Wouldn't curvature hopping interfere with the location readings of the vessel? Like Marconi and Nicobine, Loran C is another proof of the flat Earth. One more point about Loran C. Look at this coverage map. Where is Loran missing? Remember that Loran was developed for the military. Did no one think it important to have location guidance for the navies in the southern hemisphere? The fact that Loran was missing in the south indicates that there was a problem with distances for southern vessels, which makes complete sense when viewed under a flat Earth map. The same applies for airplanes, which always lose their GPS signals in the oceans over the south, again evincing a flat Earth. Exhibit 16, the non-rotating atmosphere. At the equator, the ground is allegedly rotating at 1,037 miles per hour. Yet Felix Baumgartner took a balloon up to 128,000 feet above the surface, and it took him 2.5 hours to get that high. So, if the ground is rotating at 1,037 miles per hour, then Felix Baumgartner should have landed in the Pacific Ocean. As you are aware, Felix didn't land in the Pacific Ocean. He actually landed 44 miles east of his launch site. That's against the supposed rotation and absolutely the wrong direction. Don't you think the rotation of the Earth should have affected Felix's jump? They want you to believe that as Felix rose up through the air, that the layers of the atmosphere continually sped up to keep up with the ground below. Does that make sense to you? I'm sorry, but the globe model is belied by fluid dynamics. Look at this volcanic plume. Although angled perpendicular to the surface, the volcanic plume is unaffected by any purported rotation of the ground below it. How could the upper layers of the plume keep up with the ground spinning at 1,000 miles per hour? It's asinine when you really think about it. From airplanes, to weather balloons, to hurricanes, to clouds in the sky, nothing is affected by any alleged rotation of the Earth. I really like this quote from physicist Dr. Carl Scheffer. But we know of no body, the parts of which have much less connection with each other than is the case with air. The air layer next to the Earth, really dragged along by the communicated motion, would not be able to communicate its motion to the layers above it, for the simple reason that it stands in no connection with them. These upper layers must therefore remain in their place, or which would signify the same thing, would apparently flow westward with the same rapidity with which the Earth is said to rotate to the east. Now, since a point on the equator, if the Earth rotates on its axis in a day, must move eastward at the rate of 1,250 feet a second, the air would similarly move 1,250 feet westward in a second, which would more than 10 times surpass the velocity of the most fearful hurricane. We cannot perceive the rotation of the Earth in any way. We cannot demonstrate it. There are no air currents which we can justly regard as, or even supposed to be, consequences of this rotation. These facts ought to be proof enough against the existence of a rotation of the Earth. Must it not appear almost absurd in us, preoccupied by what they have taught us in school, to accept a theory of the rotation of the Earth which neither is nor can be proven? Must we not wonder at the readiness of the learned of nearly the entire world, from the time of Copernicus and Kepler, to accept the conception of the rotation of the Earth, and then search afterwards now for nearly 3.5 centuries for arguments to maintain it, but of course without being able to find them? Exhibit 17, snipers. Some may quickly counter that snipers account for the rotation of the Earth. The claim is nonsense, and many military professionals have declared the same. But more importantly, you can go online and read the actual sniper manuals for the Army Special Forces Sniper Training, Army Sniper Training, U.S. Navy SEAL Sniper Training, U.S. Army Special Operations, and the Marines. Despite popular belief, there is no sniper adjustment for the purported Coriolis effect. Again, a huge proof of the stationary Earth and more proof that popular media has lied to us. Exhibit 18, the Antarctic Treaty. The Antarctic Treaty is an important proof of the flat Earth because it evinces an intentional and multinational effort to prevent people from determining what's beyond the 60th south parallel in Antarctica. In short, independent travel is not allowed or outside of the 60th south parallel, and that hides the flat Earth. Under the general concept of the flat Earth, Antarctica is the likely shoreline of the world's oceans. North is in the middle, south is in every direction towards the outside of the circle. You can see that here on this flat Earth map from 1587 from Urbano Monti and this 1892 Gleason map, both of which came out long before the Antarctic Treaty. Because of this, Antarctica is the one area that would prove the flat Earth model correct. Coincidentally, no independent travel is allowed below the 60th south parallel. This isn't a theory, it is a well-established fact. The Antarctic Treaty, its handbook, and its enforcement protocols, which have remained inviolate for 60 years, and includes signatories like the US, North Korea, China, and the former Soviet Union, essentially ban any reasonable attempt to explore below the 60th south parallel under the guise of protecting the environment. Think of what has happened in the last 60 years. The Antarctic Treaty survived Vietnam and all of the Cold War, despite the claim that Antarctica is rich in minerals, including coal, oil, and uranium. Were the Soviets really that interested in protecting penguins and the environment? I think the Romanian people would have a hard time believing that about the Soviet Union. It's ludicrous. Yes, Romania ratified the Antarctic Treaty on September 15, 1971. Don't your alarm bells go off when you hear that this huge swath of land, which is also the highest continent in the world, is off limits to independent exploration by people like you and I? Yes, they will claim you can independently go, but they are lying. The amount of red tape and other intentional restrictions that you would have to jump through is impracticable, and they know it, and the borders of Antarctica are patrolled by all signatory nations. Of course, there are token explorations along the ice shelf, and there are a few destination spots that you are not allowed to venture from, but that entire section of the world is off limits to independent travel. This doesn't happen unless they are hiding something big from us. If you would like to know more on the subject, go and watch this video I made. You can find it on the Globebusters channel. So telling we flat earthers to take a picture of the edge or the dome, if there is any, is a ruse because nobody is allowed to independently travel below the 60th south parallel, and that fact is proof of the flat earth. Exhibit 19, lack of north-south circumnavigation. East-west circumnavigation is very possible on the flat earth, but what isn't possible on the flat earth is north-south circumnavigation. In particular, under the generally accepted flat earth model, it appears as though you can't, for example, fly from the tip of South America, traverse Antarctica, and then make your way up to Australia or South Africa. That would be the shortest route. So guess what doesn't happen in real life? North-south circumnavigation. Below the 60th south parallel is completely devoid of all flights, and the vast majority of southern hemisphere flights first go to the northern hemisphere before traveling back down to the southern hemisphere. The routes are a joke. There are a few who claim they have completed a north-south circumnavigation trek, but the claims are ludicrous, most often referring to flights that turn around once they get to Antarctica and full of other fraudulent indices. Hundreds of thousands of flights east-west, and only a few highly questionable north-south circumnavigation claims. Come on, alarm bells should be going off because this wouldn't happen on a globe. Exhibit 20, the eclipse. The lunar eclipse is very often raised as the key proof of the globe, but it actually doesn't help the heliocentric cause at all. First, there's the well-documented Selenelian. This is video of one that happened on January 20th, 2019. There's the lunar eclipse above the horizon, and there's the sun above the horizon. A selenelian is where a lunar eclipse occurs when both the sun and the moon are both above the horizon, which means there is no alleged Earth between the sun and the moon that could cause a shadow on the moon. That's geometrically impossible, and the official explanation of refraction is ludicrous as it causes a cascade of problems with other actual observations. Next, the shape of the eclipse is wrong. A shadow of a sphere on a sphere does not make a curve like this. You just have to think about it. A curve on a curve is distorted. Third, the color a lunar eclipse produces is reddish. Can you produce a red shadow here on Earth? No, it's impossible. And again, the official explanation regarding sunsets and sunrises on Earth appearing on the moon is shockingly ridiculous. Finally, very often the lunar eclipse comes from the wrong direction, like in this video. Under the official model, the shadow should always come from the bottom and rise up. Instead, you'll often have lunar eclipse shadows come from top to bottom, again belying the globe model. The solar eclipse is a strong proof of the flat Earth. First, notice that the sun and the moon are the same size. That's a statistical impossibility under the globe model. Now look at the size of the shadow. The moon is supposed to have a diameter of 2,159 miles. Then why is the shadow of the moon only 70 miles across during a solar eclipse? These are all proofs that the sun and the moon are much more local than claimed. Exhibit 21. No photos of Earth from space. Another huge proof of the flat Earth is that there are no photos of the Earth from space. Here's the 2002 blue marble image created by Robert Simon from NASA. It looks real, right? But it's not real, and NASA says so. I can't say this with enough emphasis. This is an admitted fake. A NASA employee wrapped a flat map of the Earth. Let me repeat that. He wrapped a flat map, not photographs. He wrapped a flat map of the Earth around a cartoon ball and added surfaces, clouds, and oceans to match what people think the Earth looks like. You don't believe me? Well, let's look at this NASA article about Robert Simon, who created the 2002 blue marble image. Here's the first interesting admission from NASA. The last time anyone took a photograph from Earth above low Earth orbit that showed an entire hemisphere, one side of a globe, was in 1972 during Apollo 17. Of course, the moon landings were fake, and so the 1972 photograph was fake. You can tell it's a painting when you actually look at it. But this is NASA admitting that there were no photographs of the Earth like this from 1972 until 2015. Without question, all of the so-called pictures of Earth from space for 43 years that you were brought up to believe in were only artist renditions.
Oh, I gotta get into this too. Jen and Austin signed the contract. They're going. It doesn't get if it doesn't get canceled. Okay, so November's now talking about the Antarctic or southern region travel that's going to be conducted. I think it's going to be, unless it's updated, it was going to be during the winter solstice time in December for a few days. And yeah, it's going to be a wild Antarctic goose chase. It'll be fun. I don't know if Duffy got back online and is the reason why they're going or not. I'm going to follow up on that. It's just been quite busy lately, and I have a friggin' meniscus tear at least, and they're going to find out if there's any more damage because I'm in Canada with all of our amazing healthcare and stuff like that. The earliest appointment that I could get, even though I live in a rural area, was the 29th of October. So like 6 weeks away-ish. And yeah, so I'm hoping I'll be recovered and healed by then. But that's when I'm going to be seeing an orthopedic surgeon. So I've had like appointments and stuff like that, and yay.
And other fake images from NASA, and that's why NASA always uses the word image instead of photograph. That's pretty alarming. But this is the more interesting admission. Then we wrapped the flat map around a ball. My part was integrating the surface, clouds, and oceans to match people's expectations of how the Earth looks from space. That ball became the famous blue marble.
Mm-hmm.
Simon wrapped a flat map created from data, not photographs, around a ball and made up the rest with computer graphics to match people's expectations. Seriously, that's just propaganda. How many posters of this image hang on walls of classrooms across the world? Here, you can buy it on Amazon. Don't you think it should include the warning? This is a purely phony image created by NASA employee Robert Simon that was fabricated to match your expectations of what you think the Earth looks like. So, maybe 1 billion people have seen this blue marble image of Earth, believing it's real, when it is composed of a flat map wrapped around a ball with other fakery added. Isn't that disconcerting for the honest, objective truth seeker? After the admitted 2002 blue marble fakery, NASA claims that they took an actual photograph of the Earth from space in July 2015. That's the first alleged photograph in 43 years. Here it is. Does this alleged 2015 photograph look much different than the admitted fake image of 2002? As we already saw, NASA artists can admittedly create fake images of the Earth that look real to everyone, and that's a fact. Shouldn't you now be a bit skeptical? Instead of spending $340 million on this alleged 2015 photograph, NASA could have just had another NASA employee recreate the 2002 image with a few different clouds and shading, and no one would know the difference, and NASA could pocket the rest. As a different example, if a forger created an admitted fake painting from Van Gogh and sold the perfect but fake Van Gogh for $1,000, that would be fine, right? As long as he's honest about it, I wouldn't have a problem. But then let's say this excellent forger claimed a decade later to have a real Van Gogh on sale for $50 million. Wouldn't you be a tad bit skeptical before purchasing it, especially if you had no way of verifying its authenticity? I would. But let's take a closer look at NASA's supposed 2015 photograph. Let's rotate it and zoom in. The word sex is spelled in the clouds. It's unmistakable. Some pervert at NASA thought that was awesome. This isn't cherry picking one of 10,000 images. This is the first supposed photograph of Earth from space in 43 years, and it just so happens to have sex spelled in the clouds.
Yep.
Come on. Seems like Disney likes to put these types of hidden things to market its cartoons, like in The Lion King, for example. This was also an interesting quote from Wired magazine regarding phony space images. Images sure don't come straight out of space telescopes looking press release ready. Each visualization is the result of artists and planetary scientists collaborating to convert blips on a data readout into something that looks like a planet, all while remaining scientifically plausible. In other words, all of those space images you have on your walls are all imaginary constructs to only look plausible. Robert Simon created Blue Marble to match people's expectations. It sounds like that is the standard NASA policy. It's all propaganda. The next fallback for the Globe supporter will be the Himawari satellite. You know, the satellite the Globe supporters always boast is producing thousands of images of the Earth from space. I have to say this again. NASA already stated that it can wrap flat maps around a ball and make it look real. Himawari is just a step up in the software, as now weather radar on top of flat maps is just wrapped around a ball with an added night and day terminator line. Paul on the Plane has a great video exposing the fact that Himawari is just that, software that wraps flat weather radar maps onto a ball. That's it. The total lack of so-called pictures of Earth from space only proves that the globe and space are nothing but propaganda. Exhibit 22, the professionals. So, when I was introduced to the flat Earth, I immediately thought of the many professionals who would need to deal with the curvature of the Earth as part of their career. You know, snipers, surveyors, pilots, civil engineers, military guys, that kind of thing. We already talked about snipers, but the truth is that none of these professionals account for the curvature. There are many interviews now with airline pilots, military professionals, radar operators, missile operators, engineers, commercial surveyors, and many more, all stating that there is no accounting for the curvature or the Earth's rotation in any manner, not one bit. That's amazing, isn't it? So what proof do we have that we live on a rotating ball other than just faith and liars? Exhibit 23, the vacuum of space. They want you to believe that this Earth and its atmosphere are surrounded by a nearly endless vacuum that's more powerful than any vacuum that can be created here on Earth, and yet this vacuum is so weak that it can't remove our atmosphere. This is a fact. There's simply no possible way that an atmosphere can exist adjacent to a vacuum. Horror vacui. Nature abhors a vacuum. For example, this MIT professor is showing that once you have a gas exposed to a vacuum, that the gas will enter and fill the vacuum, but it's really just common sense. Here's a practical test by Dr. John D., who confirms the same. An atmosphere cannot exist adjacent to a vacuum. And as shown in the test, gravity doesn't fix the problem. You can just place the vacuum on top of the atmosphere, and it doesn't change the outcome, as the gas will flow straight up to the vacuum, and this is a minuscule vacuum when compared to the alleged vacuum of space. How do we know the official heliocentric model is false? Because we'd all be dead if it were true. Exhibit 24, high-altitude balloons. Some of the earliest high-altitude aeronauts confirmed the flat Earth. In 1931, Auguste Piccard reached an altitude of 51,775 feet, much higher than any plane you've been on. Piccard described the Earth as a flat disk with upturned edge. Around December 1933, Russian aeronauts reached an altitude of 11.8 miles, or 62,304 feet. The article reads, "Looking down, they tried in vain to detect any curvature of the Earth's horizon." No, you've never seen the curvature of the Earth from an airplane window. Fortunately, you don't have to be a death-defying aeronaut to see what's up there. What you're seeing right now is a video from 121,000 feet. I remember when I first saw this, I was just dumbfounded because it didn't match anything that I've watched before. Whenever you're shown a picture of a high-altitude balloon or even a high flight, you're shown something phony like this. This isn't once in a while. This is the standard. It turns out that these so-called curvature photos and videos were all shot with a fisheye or ultra-wide-angle lens to get this effect. That's a fact. The lens of the camera or the curvature of the window in the airplane is the supposed curvature. It's a curvature illusion. For all of our lives, we're inundated with supposed pictures from space. High-altitude balloons finally gave us a vision of what the Earth truly looks like from high up. Here's a great example of the standard deception. As you can see by the bent rope, the student's photo here was taken with a fisheye lens, and then the article falsely claimed it was the curvature. Do you see the deception? In addition to the flat horizon as shown at 128,000 feet, the Felix Baumgartner jump proves the flat Earth in another way. Here's where Felix entered the dangling capsule at maybe 10 feet. Notice where the horizon line is. Here's Felix at 128,000 feet. The horizon line should have dropped substantially. Instead, the horizon line is at the same exact spot, thus proving that the horizon does indeed rise to eye level, belying the globe model again. Exhibit 25. No space satellites. The common objection to the flat Earth is, what about satellites? Did you know that NASA has hundreds of these satellite balloons up in the air right now? I never knew these NASA satellites existed before flat Earth. Have you seen them? Google and many other companies have fleets of these balloons as well. Look up Project Loon. The fact that NASA and its subsidiaries hardly discuss these so-called satellites was a huge proof for me, because it evinces a deliberate effort to conceal the fact that space satellites don't exist, simply because they're not necessary. The whitewash of these balloon satellites is evidence that they are lying about space satellites. These high-altitude balloons can carry 8,000 pounds and include telescopes, radar equipment, communications equipment, internet, etc. Here's one that almost killed some people. Also, never mentioned is the fact that almost all of our alleged communications come from undersea cables and cell towers, not supposed satellites in space. Your cable and satellite radio do not come from space. What about the Hubble telescope? This is the Hubble telescope. It's called SOFIA. One flat earther was able to get a NASA manager to admit on the phone that the images from SOFIA were strangely being used as Hubble's images. Finally, look at these actual NASA videos of satellites. They are manifestly fake. Look at this one that was launched during a space shuttle mission. It's dangling from a wire. Yes, the graphics are getting better, but this one old video alone proves NASA is faking space. But we'll talk about that more tomorrow. There are so many more proofs of the flat Earth that we could discuss. Look up Airy's failure and Michelson-Morley's experiments that showing the Earth is stationary. Ask yourself how there is no worldwide change of stars if the Earth is on different sides of the sun every 6 months, meaning under the official globe model, nighttime is pointed in opposite directions every 6 months, but there is no actual worldwide change of stars. Look at the moon and ask yourself, why are all the craters perpendicular, and why there isn't one crater from a meteor that came in at an angle or horizontally, creating a chasm? Why do weather patterns and jet streams seem to fit so well on a flat Earth map? Why is there so much more life towards the alleged northern pole, but so little life towards the supposed southern pole, when there shouldn't be any difference under the globe model? But my question to you is, what are you going to do now? Will you go back to your comfortable conformity like a good dog? Or do you have an unquenchable desire to know the truth? Dave McGowan made this poignant statement. But what if your own eyes and your innate, though suppressed, ability to think critically and independently tell you that what all the institutions of the state insist is true is actually a lie? What do you do then? Do you trust in your own cognitive abilities? Or do you blindly follow authority and pretend as though everything can be explained away? If your worldview will not allow you to believe what you can see with your own eyes, then the problem, it would appear, is with your worldview. So do you change that worldview, or do you live in denial? In closing, I want to answer the question of why the lie. Of course, they may be hiding land and resources from us. Essentially, the globe constitutes a psychological prison to keep we the cattle within our imaginary fences and under control. NASA makes $59.7 million a day. That's a day. To deceive us, and so there's certainly a financial motive. But I think the primary reason behind the lie is more spiritual, and found in this quote from the publication called Lucifer, the Light Bearer, that was written in 1887. We date from the 1st of January, 1601. This era is called the Era of Man, to distinguish it from the theological epoch that preceded it. In that epoch, the earth was supposed to be flat. The sun was its attendant light, revolving about it. Above was heaven, where God ruled supreme over all potentates and power. Below was the kingdom of the dead, hell. So taught the Bible. Then came the new astronomy. It demonstrated that the Earth is a globe, revolving about the sun, that there is no up and down in space. Vanished the old heaven, vanished the old hell, the Earth became the home of man, and when the modern cosmogony came, the Bible and the Church, as infallible oracles, had to go, for they had taught that regarding the universe which was shown to be untrue in every particular. The heliocentric model was created to usher in the era of man and remove God and the Bible from all cosmogony. It brought us such nonsense as the Big Bang and evolution. It removed biblical ideas of heaven above and hell below and the salvation of mankind. Instead, you became an insignificant parasite that descended from primordial ooze. The globe lie worked, at least up until now. My brothers and sisters, this is an exciting time as we have a chance to break these chains that enslave us. However, we must set aside our petty differences and join together with all humility before God to bring His truth to humanity. The evil cabal keeps trying to divide us. Please don't let them do that. Please go out and share the truth with everyone as it is left up to us. Thank you for this opportunity to speak here today, and I hope to meet all of you in person. My love to everyone. May the Lord bless you all. Thank you.
Yeah, this was so good. I know it was a longer video. Oh, I got to stop sharing. I know it was a longer video. I've been watching throughout as well. Watched this before a few times, but you can always learn more or retain more the more you go through this stuff. And so, yeah, so I will leave it at that. I do have physio, unfortunately, to do today at some point this morning. So I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.